Hey, Andrew.
Yes, Stephen?
You know how we romanticize the days of going out to our local video store and sifting through endless amounts of movies, searching for our favorite films, and maybe even finding some hidden gems?
Oh yes, I know it all too well. That used to be my favorite thing to do. Unfortunately, everything is online now.
Well, what if I told you that there was a place online where you could get some of them same thrills as going to the video store?
Are you talking about Orbit DVD?
I knew you knew what I was talking about. Orbit DVD is located in Asheville, North Carolina, and online with OrbitDVD.com, they bring you everything your physical media heart desires.
Yeah, they have an awesome website that stays up to date with the latest releases from all of your favorite boutique labels as well as studio releases. Not only do they carry American labels such as Criterion Collection, Severin Films, Vinegar Syndrome, and Warner Archive, but they get routine shipments on imports from companies such as 88 Films, Arrow Video, Imprint, and so much more.
And with the option to sell or trade your used copies for cash or store credit, they really bring that video store vibe to you. So go to OrbitDVD.com and stock up on your Blu-rays.
And tell them Chasing Labels sent you.
Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings, and with me as always is your other host, Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Stephen. Doing good. We are back here once again for a brand new episode of Chasing Labels, the first episode of the calendar year of 2023. We took a little bit of a hiatus there towards the end of 2022 to kind of take a breather because 2022 was chock full of not only stuff to do here on Chasing Labels, but just Blu-ray announcements and all kinds of cool stuff. And then we are resuming here back in January, and this is just exciting, really exciting, because it's a new year with new stuff on the horizon.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we have a guest to kick things off.
Oh, yeah. And we've been teasing it for a while. We told everybody that we were going to do our favorite releases of 2022 show, and we were going to bring in a special guest to do that with us. And nobody better to do it with the guy that just sells you all your Blu-rays, online.
Appropriate, very appropriate.
Yeah, very appropriate. He sees all of them coming in and he sends them all out to you. And that is the man behind Diabolik DVD, Jesse Nelson.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Very well, thank you.
So, Jesse, of course, we're gonna, as I teased, we're gonna talk our favorite releases of 2022. But first, we want to talk about Jesse Nelson and get a little bit of background on your beginnings as a film fan. And of course, the beginnings of Diabolik DVD and all that kind of stuff. But first of all, how's everything going in general?
Yeah, everything's good, thanks. I mean, it's a little late here on a Saturday night.
Yeah,
but that's all good with me.
Yeah. We're talking movies. We won't keep you too long, but let's do this thing. So, Jesse, when it comes to just your love of film, where would you say that began?
My mom claims that when I was a kid, she would take me to the movies all the time, and I always wanted to see American Graffiti. And she insists that I've seen American Graffiti about 50 times. And honestly, it's not one of my favorite movies these days. But if she says I did, I guess. So we're going way back into the early 70s there when I was just a child watching movies. But as a child of divorce in the 70s and into 80s, it was basically, depending on which weekend I spent with a parent, depended on what I would see at the movies that week.
Yeah.
So my dad would take me to see Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and my mom would take me to see really anything I wanted to see. Because that's what, parents do when they're divorced. What do you want to see? American Werewolf in London, Mom. All right, I guess. So.
And moms and sons have a special relationship typically. where there's a little bit more leniency, I think, a lot of times. Yeah. So is she? I believe, based off what I can tell, I know you're a fan of kind of obscure horror and things like that. Is that she helped foster that?
Yeah, they both kind of did.
Okay.
When I was a kid, my dad actually owned a small distribution studio and released two movies, When the Screaming Stops and Walk of the Dead. And for years, I had no idea what these movies were. But When the Screaming Stops is Lorelei's Grasp, a Spanish horror movie.
Yeah.
And Walk of the Dead is it's a Paul Naschy movie that I can't think of at the second. It's not a good one either. It's the one that takes place in London and has zombies but
Andrew's
the poster,
helping you. Andrew's looking for it.
Well, I mean,
I can't think.
IMDb.
Vengeance of the Zombies is what it is.
He got it.
Yeah. But the poster for the Vengeance of the Zombies is just a guy hanging in a meat locker. It has nothing to do with the movie or anything. And for years I saw these posters and I just had no idea what the movies actually were. But so, my dad was also really into movies, and we watched a lot of horror movies together over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a story we hear a lot on here. A lot of time, sometimes you get some interesting, like, unconventional. And we had one guest that told us it was the filmmaker behind I think God, I'm blanking on the movie. The director of I think They're Not Here Yet, or I'm blanking. I don't know. I'm embarrassed. We just had him on like a month or two ago, and I'm blanking on the name of the documentary about the guys that are obsessed with the singer.
Oh, yes, yeah. I Think We're Alone
I
Now.
think we're alone now. The Tiffany movie, right?
Yeah, the Tiffany movie.
Yes.
We had the director of that movie on, Sean. I'm blanking on his last name.
Oh, Steve, you are struggling
it's
today.
fucking late. I've been up since 4:30 this morning. I've been up since 4:30.
I know.
We did an interview this morning at 6 a.m. and now we're back doing this again.
But I'll while you're talking, I'll look it up.
But his beginnings of film were very much where he wasn't into movies. Like he wasn't around it at all and anything. And his kind of start was, kind of random as he was getting into high school, and some friends showed him. He was very sheltered. But then you hear this story a lot where your family brings you to it, and that's how it would happen for me. Is that my parents, maybe unintentionally, they just kind of had movies around. They had a decent little VHS collection, and I just that was my comfort. My brother's about 6 years younger than me, so for the first 6 years of my life, my only friend was movies. So I think that happens to a lot of us. It's very relatable. So yeah.
I mean, I think that happens with a lot of us. I don't know if it's just because of the era in which we grew up in. There's that corridor of the home video market and the theater market kind of coming together, 70s and onward, where, like, if you weren't watching movies in the theaters, the VHS, when the VHS market hit, it just kind of exploded. And I think a lot of us kind of all come from that jumbled generation where people were just trying to figure out things to do. People don't understand, before the internet, you had to figure out things to do to entertain yourself, and so there was a lot more available outside of doing things by yourself. You know what I mean? It was a communal thing with a family thing. And I remember going to the movies with family and friends as a kid growing up in the 90s all the time. And it was just kind of like the thing to do, because there was not a lot of other things to do. I grew up right before television became a big thing. Before we had digital cable with hundreds of channels, you only had basic cable, which was, I don't know, 20 or something channels. So there wasn't a lot to watch on television if you were a tiny kid. So going to the movies was like a big thing. when it came to watching
Yeah,
movies.
it's fun. It's funny how technology it gives us better connection to people anywhere, but has kind of separated us even more in ways. It kind of does one and the same thing, makes people
Yeah, it's
entertain
true.
themselves by themselves, but also can also do like what we're doing right now and connect with each other in different places. It's weird. It's a weird thing, but yeah,
when I was a kid, I had Star Wars figures, right? That was the
yeah.
thing to do. Does anyone play with action figures anymore, or do people just buy them and collect them and put them on their shelf?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think that, I don't know. I don't think that's a thing unless you're just like, a small child, obviously, but like, yeah,
Mm,
like, I don't know. Are
yeah.
kids playing with toys like that anymore? I don't know. I think they're
What is
mostly playing video games these
Yeah,
interesting is
days.
there
right.
was an article
Yeah.
there was an article that came out recently that's saying that the percentage of people who buy action figures and things like that are adults now.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of makes a lot of sense since we all grew up with them and now we're adults and we have the money to
Yeah. We
actually
can
buy
buy all
them.
the action
So we
figures
Yeah,
we
can
but
buy
want.
you can
Yeah.
buy all the ones you want and go back and buy the vintage ones that we had when we were kids that we may have lost or may have had along the way. And I think our generation is kind of really big into that. And also, Stephen, I did figure out who you were talking about. Sean Donnelly
Donnelly. Yeah.
is the director, but I think we're
I
alone
would have
now.
gotten that another
Uh,
day, but not today.
that
Um,
yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it's kind of interesting how some people do come to movies early, and some people come to movies later. We've always been of the mindset that no matter what time or when you come to a certain movie, I think the most important thing is that you finally get there. It doesn't matter if you do it
yeah.
when you're 6 years old or 60 years old. It doesn't matter.
God,
I
I'd
mean, a
love to
lot of
have a
people have the
60-year-old that just started watching movies at 60 and
I
have him on
well,
a
I
show.
meant
That'd
like
be amazing.
well, I have friends who haven't seen, I have friends who haven't seen Star Wars. I have friends who
Sure.
haven't seen, other
I
mainstream things
I
like The
hadn't
Godfather
I was
or
gonna say I hadn't
whatever.
seen The Godfather until about 4 years ago.
See, there
I
you
mean,
go.
I watched so many
There you
other
go, and that's
things,
been
yeah.
around forever.
Um,
yeah.
what
There's
what are
always
s
something that eludes us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jesse, is there ones that people make fun of you for not seeing yet?
For the longest time, I had never seen Maniac,
Uh-huh.
and when um, when Blue Underground just restored it, and when they found the negative and restored it to 4K, they showed it at the Alamo in Yonkers, which is about 2.5 hours from me,
Yeah.
and I drove up there to watch it, and it was the first time I'd seen it. And Bill Lustig was there,
Oh,
so he
nice.
talked about the movie for a little bit, and it was a double feature with New York Ripper, which I had also never seen. So it
Yeah.
was two firsts that night.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
But is there something else that I've never seen? I mean, I'm sure there is,
I'm
but
sure, yeah, there is. There always is.
there always is something that I haven't seen. But um, you know, I I try to I try to watch all the classics.
I mean, it's good to
So
be as informed as possible. I mean, I like to. It's the way we do our show in here. That's what we do. I mean, literally, the reason we do our show the way we do it is we do less. We don't cover as many announcements, but the announcements we cover, we try to watch as much of them as possible, leading up to when we talk about them. So not only can we help inform the audience, but also it's like gives us a reason to like delve into some random shit. That
Yeah.
this
yeah,
that the boutiques just curate for us. We're like, oh, all these Umberto Lenzi crime movies that just got Severin just announced. Well, we just went out. Andrew did his magic, found him online somewhere, and he sent them to me, and we tried watching them. Just like
Yeah, I got to watch I did a whole Umberto Lenzi 1970s police movie marathon
yeah, yeah,
in preparation. And Umberto Lenzi was a director I knew nothing about until Severin released that first, the Lenzi Baker box set.
yeah,
And then that box set in and of itself kind of gives you the context of who Umberto Lenzi was and his movies and all that kind of stuff. So it's like that's the one good thing with the boutique labels, with buying all of these movies, is you do learn a lot about movies and directors and actors and things you didn't know about before. It's really kind of an organic education. I have found it's been very rewarding. It hasn't been just watching the movies and the supplemental materials for a lot of these releases because they give you way more than you expect. That's kind of how I recommend people to learn about movies is to watch movies. It's kind of the best education. It really is. There's nothing like it. I mean, formal education is good and fun, but getting to the heart of the matter, which is the movies, is the most important thing. And we're lucky now where we're having so many great releases come out that's very informative.
Yeah. And so speaking of that, of course,
Good transition.
collecting, for you, Jesse, was collecting a big part of your early life? Did it get you into where you are now when it comes to starting up Diabolik and all that stuff? And where did that begin?
Yeah, I mean, you don't mean just collecting movies
Yeah.
because, I have been a lifelong collector of just whatever.
Whatever you could
I
find.
mentioned the Star Wars toys. I still have them all.
Yeah.
They're all still here in my basement. I was really into video games as a kid. I grew up coming into, video games. I'm that generation that video games basically started when I was a kid. So, I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 when Pac-Man came out. So, that was kind of the big boom. So I was really into, of course, Atari and Intellivision, and then going into Nintendo and, still today, and PlayStation. I'm an avid reader, so I have just tons of books stacked up everywhere here. Movies are stacked up everywhere. I have posters in boxes that I can't even remember what I have anymore.
Me too.
There's a lot of junk in around here.
Yeah, I used to work at a movie theater. I got 300 posters in this closet back here. Yeah.
What do you got in there? I bet you can't even remember everything that's in there.
A few, but not most of them.
I know you've gone through cataloging them.
I've tried. And
it's just like
you give up after a while. You give up. You get tired of unrolling posters and putting them back in tubes, and yeah, it's tiring. But so with the so when did starting up Diabolik DVD become a reality for you?
Diabolik became. It came out of a couple of things. We a couple of friends and I do a thing called Exhumed Films that we've been doing here in the Philadelphia area for a little over 20 years, where now we've moved from theater to theater, but basically we rent out a theater or we have some sort of monetary agreement with a theater, and we bring in some films and show everything from, we've done a double feature and we've done 24 hours in a row. So in the early days of that, I would go to the flea market. People were getting rid of their video stores. They would just come to the flea market and throw things in boxes. And I would go out there for hours and dig through them all and pull things out. And then I would bring them to Exhumed Films and resell them.
Yeah.
And then as that started drying up, I was trying to think of what to do next, and somehow connected with a shop in Hong Kong. And, people probably don't remember this, but in the early days, Diabolik was almost all Asian movies.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we did. We did Hong Kong movies. There was some Japanese stuff, some Korean stuff, but Hong Kong was the easiest thing to get. So in the early days, that is what we did. I started bringing those in, and people were really into them. So then I started selling them online. And before there was, Shopify and WooCommerce and the different stores there are now, it was just this janky website where people could come on, and I would literally update it manually with some free HTML software. And it was pretty jerky. Yeah. But things moved on, and we are here where we are today with that.
Yeah,
it just sort of evolved out of bringing VHS tapes to our shows and selling them.
Yeah, it's crazy how it's crazy. It's crazy how what was the time period of that When did that start, and then to where we are now?
We started Exhumed Films in '98,
Wow.
and Diabolik is we'll be 21 this year.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So 21 years
yeah.
of legit business. So there was a couple of
Right.
years before there where we were,
Starting up.
bringing those tapes in. So
Yeah.
it's been over, pretty much that same amount of time, about 24, 25 years.
Yeah, and that's like people. I mean, for a lot of the younger listeners, or maybe listeners who just don't remember, um, before internet buying is a concept I don't know if a lot of people understand. Before the whole internet, where buying things like buying clothes, buying movies, buying music, buying whatever, that is probably only really been around for 20, 21 years or so. It's really kind of a relatively new thing, but it's so much part of our lives now that we don't even, think about a time beforehand for the most part where, you had to buy everything in store, at your local stores or at your local, chain stores or whatever the case may be. Now everything is completely flipped on its head. Just from, you know, from my perspective when it comes to collecting movies, the landscape, at least my local landscape for buying movies has radically changed over the last decade. Where basically I can only buy most of everything online now because the stores just don't have it. The brick and mortar stores just don't either carry it, or a lot of the brick and mortar stores have closed, or whatever the case may be. And it's places like Diabolik where I'm assuming you've seen a massive change in the time that you've been running Diabolik, to where there's just a massive amounts of traffic now.
Yeah, it's really crazy because I kind of lament the days of being able to go out and buy things. I mean, where do you even go anymore? I can't even think of any local bookstores around here. I mean, Barnes and Noble,
Yeah, I
which
have
I'm not
Barnes and
really
Noble.
interested in going to. And
Yeah,
um,
we have a place near where I live. The only place I can think of, and it's called Ed McKay's, and it's like a
Mm.
used bookstore. It's a used everything store, and it's just huge, and it's got tons of Blu-rays and stuff in there.
Yeah,
And that's about it. That's literally about it.
yeah, there are small bookstores that you can find and kind of holes in the wall if you know where to look. There are a lot of thrift
The
stores.
library,
yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there's thrift stores that sell lots of books now. Like local thrift stores sell lots of books. I used to my first passion, my first love was collecting books. So I spent a lot of my teenage hours walking aimlessly through bookstores. just just looking at books and just shopping and browsing and collecting books. And that kind of continued all the way through adulthood, but it's not like it used to be where you could spend hours in a bookstore. One, the pricing is vastly different now. They're very expensive depending on where you go. But movies are also kind of similar to where it's vastly different, where I wouldn't even know all the places I used to go 5 or 6 years ago. I are just, they just don't exist anymore. And if they do exist, the selection just so bad that it's not even worth your time going. And the pricing is not worth your time either, because the things you can find there are things you can find online for cheaper. You know what I mean? It's just the way the market's going.
yeah, it's
And
true.
it's kind of sad because I love the hunt. The hunt's always the funnest part.
It's
Is
great.
hunting is hunting
But
for these things.
and going back to collecting there for a second, do you guys know the book Paperbacks from Hell?
Mm-mm. No.
So
No, no.
it's a book that came out a couple years ago that is all about terrible um, horror paperbacks from the 80s that had these great covers that you were basically sold on these covers of these books. And you could buy these books up until when this book came out. You could buy those books anywhere for nothing. They were just trash. No one cared about them. And then this book came out, and now everyone's got the paperbacks from hell. Look at this. Look at this paperback. It's $50.
Yeah.
This paperback from hell.
Yeah.
So, this is how things change.
It's that sounds
Yeah.
that mentality sounds familiar.
It
It comes with
sounds
all the Blu-rays that come out now. Like, oh man, that's out. The limited slip covers out. Well, now that's worth 100.
yeah.
I really want that now.
Yeah, as soon as something goes out of print or becomes rare or there's a limited amount of it, or it sells out from someplace, the third party market value just flies up.
It's crazy.
What's happened, where a lot of that happens now, what you were just saying, Jesse, is the comic book market, where the comic books are there are comic books that you could buy for dirt cheap are now worth hundreds or thousands of dollars because of whatever extenuating circumstance, whether it be a character or storylines being adapted into a movie or a TV show or whatever the case may be. It's like the stock market, really. It's
Yeah.
just kind of hearsay that kind of pushes these prices, and it's kind of just like the supply and demand and all these economic terms and whatnot. It's not that nothing has changed with the item itself. It's the value we put on it as people, and that's what keeps changing things. And
Yeah.
movies have that as well. At least the collecting market does, because I'll go online and I'll see things on eBay that'll be, $400-500, and meanwhile, you know 5 to 6 months ago, the website that was selling it for $60.
Yeah.
So it's baffling
Yeah.
the value people put on some things.
Definitely.
It's true. Those do you guys have your Invisible Maniac invisible slipcover?
Oh, okay. No, I didn't.
Have you seen
I
that
think
on
we missed
eBay?
out on that.
I missed out.
That was like,
I remember when that first got popped out. I was like, I'm not sorry.
didn't we talk to Brad Henderson
I think
about
we
that?
might.
I
We
think
might have. I don't know.
because we thought it was a legitimate, like, kind of a jokey thing, but
I thought
apparently
it was
it
a
had
joke,
some
right?
value. Apparently, it had some value to it. Now people want it.
No, I'm okay. I'm all right. I know it's
Yeah,
got,
I
it's
mean,
like
I
a
don't
sleeve. It's
particularly
like a
want it.
sleeve protector, isn't it, or something like that? Or that's what it is.
It is. It's the exact slipcover that's on the movie
Yeah.
if you just buy it now, except that it's lenticular, and when you move it, the girl's clothes fall off.
Well,
So
that's cool. That's cool, but
it's cool.
but the thing is I
and
wasn't going to buy that movie, so
I
I
liked
mean,
Invisible Maniac. Invisible Maniac was, you know, something that was on my list of, if I ever come across it, I want to buy that
yeah.
for Cauldron Films. It was on. I
mm,
have a list of about 50 things,
Yeah.
and then it keeps getting smaller over the last couple of years as things get snapped up. But
I was just gonna say things are probably getting snapped up that you had wanted, to get your hands on for distribution years ago, because it seems like everything's being, kind of brought out of the woodworks now. Like the obscure of the obscure is coming to light
it's
from
true.
so many different places.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's a good transition because
I was gonna say you can use that transition.
yeah,
Steven.
we Cauldron Films. Tell us when that became something you thought would be a possibility to start your own little label.
My timeline on Cauldron blurs a little bit because we started it not long before COVID. And then everything just seems so weird the last couple of years. I can't even remember exactly when it was. But I will tell you that the genesis of it was that my partner Brian in Cauldron Films and I were working a convention together. And he just said, why don't we just do this?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but do you have an idea? And he's like, American Rickshaw. I love this movie. Let's find out who's got this. And within a week, we had found out the licensor in Italy, and we're already working on buying it.
Yeah.
So it really just started there. Brian comes from, he's not only a movie guy, but he has a music background. So he's really into the weeds of software for music, and he transitioned into movies kind of naturally with the editing and cleaning software. It just suited him so well. So Brian is the guy who is cleaning everything up behind the scenes, who is, fixing the audio on things, and does our graphic design. So he doesn't do, we usually pay people to do the actual artwork, but he designs all the packaging and lays it all out.
Yeah.
The style of slipcover that we use was, something that we had made from a printer. They made us the template.
Yeah.
So, that is basically the genesis of it. It was just, we were sitting around at a convention and said, he was like, I think we can do this.
She's like, well, why are we selling everybody stuff? Why are we just making our own stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's literally what he said. So
yeah,
that's great,
that
man.
seems to be, I'll say that's awesome. Because that seems to be kind of what a lot of people that we've talked to that have started up their own label, it just gets to that point where we're just like, hey, let's try it out. Let's see what happens.
It's like when they see a hole somewhere where something's not being focused on, or certain films are just not being looked at, and you get to a point where there's enough of them movies where you're like, we need to just do it ourselves. I mean, like, especially like the Canadian International Picture guys, they're like, nobody's putting out Canadian films. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, let's do it.
There's a hole or a gap there, or there's, there are films that have never seen the light of day in any proper home video release or any quality home video release, and let's see if we can do it. I know the logistics behind it must be, difficult when it comes to finding licensing and then finding materials to create these releases and then all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a lot of trial and error for a lot of people.
Well, when we came across Contraband, the licensor told us that the negative was unusable, and that if we wanted the license, we were going to take a chance on it. But they would scan it for us, and we could do whatever we wanted with it. And it just so happened that all coincided with COVID. And Brian literally just sat in front of a computer all during COVID and cleaned that movie and fixed it. You can't even believe what it looked like compared to what it looks like now. There was frames that were literally folded in half.
Wow.
It was a mess. And he went through and did the impossible. And even the licensor was so thrilled because we gave that back to them when we were done. And they were like, this is so great because now we can sell it to other people. And we're like, why don't you hold off on a minute for that? But yeah.
It's like, we did all this work. Come on.
Yeah. But, they scanned it for us for free, which no one does. But they were like, it's trash, guys. So we're going to do it for you, but we'll do it for free, but you got to give it back to us.
Yeah.
Gosh. So there was extenuating.
Oh, yeah. That was the caveat. Because otherwise we wouldn't have given it back to him. But, it worked out. Which was a surprise, but thanks to Brian, it worked out.
I was gonna say, Jesse, what do you do? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just messing with you, man. No, that's dude. How much work that had to have taken? I mean, we've talked to a lot of people that have been doing restoring, and I mean, god damn it, that just seems so tedious having to sit. I mean, how many hours do you think he worked in front of that thing?
I think that he told me that it was pretty close to 100 million hours that he worked on that.
Oh, that sounds about right. That's probably about right. It's probably about right.
I think that's about right.
It feels that much, at least. Just doing some of the stuff I used to do for video editing, and these were only like a couple hours. These were like stuff with minimal editing, 3 camera setups. And that stuff, you just spend hours, you just spend a whole day goes by in a fucking snap. And you're like, damn, I only got like half this done. Like I can only imagine what a 2-hour movie, just cleaning that up. And then probably whatever feature stuff had to be also cleaned up. The feature stuff.
Probably like frame by frame, fixing errors and things like that. But then also probably color correcting that you guys had to do on that.
And then did you do it? You did a new translation too. I'm assuming. Did you do a new Italian translation?
We did, but we had somebody do that for us. It was not. Neither of us speak Italian, so.
Well, I figured there would be a soft. Yeah, I didn't know if maybe he had a software and he had to do all that, and yeah.
I mean, he does time it and correct it, and there's still some finesse to be done even after we have the translation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And, I was just going to say something else about that, but, I was going to say that they have automated cleaning software that will go through, but the problem with the software, and I'm sure you've seen this in movies, but sometimes that software thinks that motion is a scratch.
Oh.
So you'll see things where, like, maybe a guy moves his head with a cigarette in his mouth and the cigarette disappears as he moves his head.
Yeah.
It's because some cleaning software went through and wiped that off. And, you see this sometimes too at the beginning of a movie that somebody has worked on. A lot of times the licensor will have cleaned it for you and given it to you. And, sometimes it's not the best work that you've ever seen. And, you got to put a disclaimer on there. I mean, sometimes there's just nothing you can do with it. Things like that with the cigarette disappearing, for example, which I've seen. If someone hands it to you, you can't put the cigarette back. You'd have to go back and get the whole original raw scan, re-clean that segment and put it through. It's tricky.
It comes down more to like, okay, what's more important? Do we go through all that trouble to try to get the raw materials to do it again, or just get the movie out there? It's got to be a tough choice because you want to do it right, but sometimes they're not giving you much of a choice if they're trying to sell you on this thing that they already done.
Yeah, it's true. And where I just saw that was on the new Vinegar Syndrome release of Burning Paradise.
Oh, really?
Which is actually on my list of favorite releases of the year.
Oh, okay.
So
teaser.
That wasn't intended to be any kind of segue, but that was on at the beginning.
Yeah.
And but Burning Paradise was a movie that I had rented on VHS from a store in Chinatown in Philadelphia and watched. And it looked like absolute garbage. It was full screen. And, I put this on and I'm like, oh, I wonder what this is going to look like. And the answer is it's beautiful. It looks fantastic. I mean, but I remember watching just this garbage VHS from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was such a pleasure to watch that movie look like that.
Yeah.
But, you've got to put a disclaimer on there because people are going to look at that and say, oh, look, this is smooth here and there's this here. And I am sure that whoever they got that from in Hong Kong had already done all this work on it and they were handed it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you can only make a movie look as good as you can make it. You know what I mean? You can only push the material, the elements so far to where like you can't do anything else. I mean, I think we talk a lot about that when it comes to the new trend of putting older films in 4K resolution or using HDR, which we've talked about several times here on the show. And it's just kind of like, does this old material lend itself to be able to do this, or are you just kind of, make it, will it look worse because the resolution's so high and the quality of the original elements are so poor? And you know what I mean? How far are you also remastering it? It's a lot of questioning with all of those things. I think we brought that up. I think that was brought up one time, Stephen. Was it the Arrow release of Legend where people were upset that it was just a Blu-ray release and not a 4K release?
Yeah,
and I believe Arrow came out and said, like, the elements are just specifically for the director's cut, Ridley Scott's director's cut. The elements are just not, they wouldn't look good in 4K. They just, because a lot of those shots that were reinserted into the movie were not finished, and then when they put them back later on, they just weren't really finished to a higher quality. I think it was something like that. I'm probably paraphrasing it, but it was similar to that situation, and that's why that release was only a Blu-ray release and not a 4K release. So it really all depends on the movie and the material. And I think we've talked with a few people on here, like, what's the decision about like whether to go for Blu-ray versus 4K when you're releasing it? Is it financial or is it have to do with the movie itself? You know what I mean? Like, what factors does that play?
I'm sure
into
it's both, really.
Because I'm assuming it's a whole new expense for 4K, and for high definition. For
we know Cauldron's about to delve into that soon with their new City of the Living Dead release.
It's true.
Yes.
Yeah, and we learned a lot over that process. Now um, we didn't do the HDR color grade or the Dolby Vision. We handed that off to David McKenzie at Fidelity in Motion, who does a lot of the big releases.
We
and he works
literally
with
hear that.
Arrow
We hear that name. I think everybody uses David McKenzie.
I think you're right.
We talked to his brother, Michael, that works for Arrow before, and we need to see if we can get David on the show because he literally apparently works with everybody.
He's got to. I mean,
Yeah.
I know he works with Synapse and Arrow and us, and you know, it wasn't cheap to do that, but the question was, here we are with the City of Living Dead. We've got this, you know, upper tier Fulci movie, one of the best Italian horror movies. It's something that we just absolutely love. Brian and I both, we had never intended to license a movie that had already had a bunch of releases. And when City of the Living Dead came across our desk, I was like, oh shit, it's City of the Living Dead.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't pass that one up.
It's literally a movie that I've been watching since I was 15 on VHS, and then into the Anchor Bay days, and then Blue Underground, and then we were like, well, if we're gonna do it, if we're gonna buy it, it's got to be a UHD. There's no choice. We got to do it. We got to spend the money, and we got to give this to David to do because he's the best, and he's going to tell us, this is going to look like garbage on UHD, or this is going to look fantastic. And the answer is it looks great. I mean, it looks so great.
I was going to say I already pre-ordered it, so please don't tell me. Please don't tell me it looks like shit.
I have watched both the new Blu-ray and the UHD a couple of times each.
Yeah,
they look fantastic.
Awesome.
And plus, I love the movie. I just love the movie, so I can't say enough about it. I'm so excited for people to see this release, and we have a whole disc of just extras.
Oh,
and everyone has just bought the limited edition. There's nothing else, so you're all getting the CD, which is incredible. And we decided that because it is this beautiful new master that we've spent a lot of time working on, that we're going to include the Blu-ray, because there was an initial thought like, doesn't everyone already have this Blu-ray? Why does anyone want this? We'll just release a UHD. And then I was like, but it's a different version. It really, I mean, the content's the same, but it looks so different.
Yeah, I was going to say it's an upgrade on the Blu-ray, so it's
right.
Yeah,
right.
And
so we thought that it was fair to include it.
Yeah, for people that ain't maybe completely transitioned to 4K but are thinking about it, they'll have that option later and already have it if they go ahead and get this. So
yeah, and that was a conversation we had too, because while the both of us are 4K compatible, there was a while that we weren't, but we were buying things that came with a Blu-ray that we could watch now, and then we'll have the 4K for later.
Yeah, kind of future-proofing yourself.
Yes,
in terms of like, if you ever want to make that transition, you already got some content to watch.
Next thing you know,
go
ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, next thing you know, we're gonna have to go ahead and start putting the 8Ks in there.
I doubt it. I doubt it. I keep bringing it up, saying that this is the last format, but they could prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
I always think that, and I think for a lot of movies, Blu-ray is the final frontier for that movie. There's things that I just don't need. I don't need a 4K UHD of Mac and Me, right? It doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
I have to have a Blu-ray of it. I have, but I don't need that in 4K. Blu-ray is the final format for Mac and Me. Let's just say it now.
Soon as you bring up Mac and Me, I start to think about the Mystery Science Theater of that, where they pretty nice. They just keep saying pretty nice.
I'm still thinking of just the fact that there's still movies we're waiting to get Blu-ray releases being upgraded from DVD. You know what I mean? There's a
Yeah.
lot of particularly my passion lies with classic, old Hollywood cinema. A lot of those movies, a lot of those catalog of the big time studios, whether it be Universal, Paramount, who just woke up and starting to put out their back catalog of stuff, or whether it be 20th Century Fox. I don't know what's going to happen with that back catalog. Who's going to keep putting out
They'll
those
put out
Blu-rays?
Alien enough for you. I bet you they'll
I
put
mean,
that out a
I
lot.
guess they're gonna just keep putting out Alien and Die
And
Hard every
Predator.
year, I guess. And,
Yeah.
and it's just like, and of course, Warner Brothers with Warner Archive. How long is Warner Archive going to be around putting out those back catalog of movies? You know what I mean? And there's a lot of stuff where, like you said, we're waiting. Blu-ray is such a still vital format for a lot of that component of it. And then, there are a lot of classic movies being brought to the 4K format. A lot of the stuff that people are already I'll probably have owned like so many times over. Casablanca just got a UHD release. Lawrence of Arabia's got a UHD release now.
Double
It's a Wonderful
Indemnity.
Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Double Indemnity just got a 4K release from Criterion. I mean, there's a lot of classic movies. I mean, Wizard of Oz has a 4K release now, and that movie has been released so many times. And it's just like I'm wondering, what about the movies that haven't gotten releases? Where are those gonna go? And I mean, I think Blu-ray is where those will go, and I think that's where they will stay. I don't see a lot of those getting 4K releases. A lot of the stuff it's a miracle they're just getting Blu-ray releases in general.
Yeah.
Some of them at this point. And so we're hitting, I wouldn't say plateau, but we're hitting that threshold now where this is the best we're going to get, and what we're getting is damn good,
Yeah.
like better
Yeah.
than we've ever
It's
gotten
so
before.
good, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah, some movies that we've covered here on the show that we have found, whether it be streaming or some people have uploaded to YouTube for VHS rips, and it's just like these are unwatchable qualities, and then you see a Seven or a Vinegar Syndrome or a Partner Label or Cauldron Films or whomever put it out, and it's like this movie's never looked this
I
good
mean,
ever. Probably even when it came
I
out, it
mean,
probably didn't look this good.
there's even some good stuff. I mean, like I just saw the test some of the test images of what Golden Ninja is putting out White Zombie, and they did a good clean on the White Zombie, and
I
that
saw that.
looks a lot better, like what they did with that, and that's an old film, and
Yeah,
um,
I think that's one of the first kind of zombie
zombie films,
movies
yeah,
properly.
yeah,
I mean, a lot of stuff before that was like voodoo magic type stuff.
yeah,
Um, yeah, that's very that's fascinating. There's a lot of there's even a lot of older Blu-rays that need those movies need to be remastered too, but that's a whole other different discussion.
Yeah, that's something
Um,
else too.
yeah,
yeah,
And
that's
the
because the
early
format's
days of the
always
format were not kind to a lot of movies like Pulp Fiction
yeah.
and Reservoir Dogs, which those are very welcome upgrades.
Oh,
Um,
yes. Oh, I remember Reservoir Dogs was probably one of the first Blu-rays I ever bought. And because it was one of the earlier ones that was released, it was like that, like Usual Suspects. A lot of the Blu-rays, I've said this many times before, a lot of the Blu-rays put out in that early corridor window from like the mid to late 2000s all need to be re-released
oh
or
yeah,
remastered in some way. All of
they're
them
all
do.
problematic.
They all have either MPEG 2 codecs or VC1 codecs. Um, they've all got, just issues, or even the sound is not even lossless sound. It's just like
Yeah,
it's regular Dolby stereo sound or whatever the case may be. But
yeah,
it's a lot of that needs to be upgraded. We're seeing a lot of those things being released right now. And it's all being released through the boutique labels. None of the mainstream people who actually own the movies really want to touch them.
yeah. It's really
They're
strange.
yeah, a lot of them just like are just licensing them out to other companies because a lot of the major companies don't really care a lot about physical media right now when it comes to their own catalog of stuff. I mean, a lot of the mainstream movies that come out now, the new blockbusters, the new dramas, Oscar movies, whatever, they get Blu-ray releases, but it's kind of bare bones discs. Like you're lucky if you get a commentary on them. You
Yeah,
really do, or maybe a little behind the scenes, couple of interviews that are like 5 minutes long or not even. So they're just kind of putting them out just to put them out, maybe because it's in the contracts and it's not necessarily, something they want to do. I know Disney has probably scaled back a lot about that. I mean, I know, when it comes to the TV market, things have scaled back tremendously
Yeah, let's
when it
not
comes
go.
to home
Please, let's not
video.
go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, Steven, bring me in.
Let me reel
'Cause
you in because you're going on a ramble. You're going on a ramble.
I'm going on a ramble because I'll just say this. Yeah, TV has taken the biggest hit when it comes to physical media, I think.
But look at Westworld.
Yeah.
Where are you going to watch that now if you don't have a physical disc of it?
Nowhere. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's right. And that's a big budget show. I mean, it's not some little show that they made one season of and swept it under the rug. This is
No,
they
it's
did
not.
4
It's not a
seasons of
cult.
that?
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
cult show. It was set up to be HBO's next big time show, a la like Game of
Yeah.
Thrones level of like ratings and buzz and people talking about it. And then now, if you don't own the DVD or the Blu-ray or the 4K, you can't watch it streaming anywhere because it's just gone. Yeah.
Well, the word that I understand is that they did that so they don't have to pay the actors residuals.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
that
I've heard a lot about that too.
they're going to license it out to people that now this is just what I've read. So I don't know. I don't have any insider information, but that they're going to license out to stations that have commercials so that they're making revenue off of it, that they're going to pay the actors from that.
Can't wait to watch it on Tubi.
Yeah, right. But did you guys watch Perry Mason on HBO?
I did not get to watch. I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I just saw they're doing a second season.
Oh, wow.
So a show that I don't know anybody that watched this show except my wife and I. And it was great. But that's what they're going to spend their money on, is a second season of Perry Mason. Now I'm happy because I thought the show was terrific. But it's a weird line, right?
Yeah. Right now, that whole Warner Brothers HBO
Discovery
situation is fascinating, and it could bleed over to, well, it has already bled over to the movie world. But I'm just saying the physical, media world. I'm just waiting for that domino to fall. I'm waiting for it to impact their Blu-rays and their 4Ks and stuff like that, because it's already impacting their streaming. And if they're trying to cut costs, they're gonna go with the lowest rung stuff that, where they can find ways to cut costs. I mean, that happened with Warner Archive already, Steven, where, they kind of closed that whole department. We had, who did we have on that I can never
I'm going to remember
Steven?
this name, Matt Patterson.
Yes, we had Matt Patterson on from Warner Archive, and we talked a lot about that when that whole AT&T Warner Brothers thing, merger happened, which has now not even really a thing anymore.
That only lasted they've been sold like 2 years.
Yeah, they've been sold off again. But he talked distinctly of how much effort Warner Brothers put into streaming and digital marketing and stuff like that, and scaled back when it came to Warner Archive. And just the physical media world in general. And it's like, how long before that happens yet again? Not only there, but other places.
Yeah.
Just because I think the bubble of streaming is starting to leak, and it's just a matter of time before it starts affecting the physical media world. Luckily, boutique labels are kind of not quite affected by that, for the most part, Steven. I find like it's just because like that seems like to be the outlet of a lot of the bigger studios. They can just be like, hey, we really don't want to put these out ourselves. Let's sell this license off to whomever, so we can just make some money off of that, and then we'll just give them the material.
It's beneficial now. Right now, I think it's like you've said, this has kind of been a plateau spot for physical media, because people, the studios are looking for ways to make money, and if they can just send it off to somebody else to do it, they will. But another label that you did decide, you not only have Cauldron, but now you've decided to partner up with Jared from over at Mondo Macabro, and you're starting up Neon Eagle. So tell us a little bit.
Yes.
Tell us about Neon Eagle.
Neon Eagle is really Jared's baby.
Okay.
And Jared came to us and said, "Hey, do you guys have any interest in doing this label with me? I've already bought something." And Mondo Macabro wasn't interested in doing it. So he said, "Do you guys kind of want to partner up on this?" I mean, basically, it's almost like a Cauldron Films partner label.
Yeah.
So again, Brian did the work. Now the first release is Kill Butterfly Kill. There's literally 3 versions of the movie. So poor Brian had to go through and fix 3 versions of the same movie. And the good thing is that the 3 versions share scenes. Yeah. So he could take those scenes and put them in all 3. But then all 3 movies have unique scenes. So he had to go through and fix everything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the movie's terrific. All the versions of the movie are terrific. They all bring something unique to the table. And when Cauldron Films started, we had a long laundry list of things that included a number of Hong Kong movies. And then COVID hit. So dealing with the Chinese distributors was impossible. Everything was closed. They weren't doing any work. And they were just like, when this is all over, let's talk again. And then when it was all over, all of a sudden, everybody had all the Hong Kong movies. They just went in and scooped them all up. So, that kind of was a pisser. We're very happy with the movies that Cauldron has. But, for example, Error 444.
Yeah.
4 fours.
4 fours.
Yeah, 4 fours. They did Red Spells Red, and Centipede Horror. Those were 2 of the movies that we had on our list.
Oh, man.
But, hey, you know what? It's great because we have them. We have them out in the world now, which I love. And they announced that they're doing Fatal Termination, which we were in negotiations with the licensor for that. And they came back with the craziest price of all time for this movie. And when they announced they were doing that, I sent them an email. I said, there's no way, right, that you paid this amount of money for it. And the theory that we have is that they were offered the movie for X amount of dollars before us. And then this licensor came back and said, maybe we can get more money from these people.
Yeah.
So they just highballed us.
Yeah.
So that's the theory that I think happened. But again, another movie that was on our list that, but a competent company has it and is going to put out a great release of it. So exciting.
Exactly. And there's tons of that Hong Kong stuff to mine. It seems.
So
much. Oh my goodness.
I mean, this new Vinegar Syndrome box set has Deadly Camp in it, which was a movie that in the early days of Diabolik DVD, we sold the DVD for $9.99. And that was importing it from Hong Kong and paying for the shipping, and still was $9.99. So I laughed when I saw that on the list. I was, oh my God, Deadly Camp. Here we are. We've come full circle now. Deadly Camp on Blu-ray.
Yep, definitely. So, we got, so we got our first Neon Eagle announcement. Do we know when? It's probably not going to be another announcement for that probably until after the first release is out sometime.
I think that is the plan. Yeah. The second Neon Eagle title is actually a movie that Cauldron had bought from Japan. And after Jared brought this to our table, we said, hey, well, you know what? We've got this as well. So we rolled this into a Neon Eagle release.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to reveal what it is yet. But it's going to be pretty soon. And it's great.
Awesome.
Awesome,
yeah,
it's a really nasty 70s Japanese movie, which there seems to be no end of those as well. So we're really excited about that as well. The whole label is going to be a blast. These movies are lowbrow Asian movies that really deliver, what the trailer promises.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. That's great. When this label was first announced, I was like, here's just another sector of cinema that I'm going to get to learn about,
Yeah.
But there are a lot of labels that are delving into Asian cinema, but this one's specifically going into kind of exploitation-y kind of stuff that I'm getting more and more into exploitation. So I want more of it. So I'll be excited to see what else they got coming.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited to share everything. It's kind of overwhelming keeping it all a secret, to be honest.
Oh, I can't imagine. But all right, Jesse. Well, thank you for sharing a lot of that stuff with us. And and so now, so that we don't keep you too long, let's try going down our. We all got a list of our favorite releases from 2022, and we're gonna go one by one, go around and share a release, and then at the end, if you have any few extras, we can share some honorable mentions. So Jesse,
sure.
being the guest of honor, please share with us your first 2022 release that you really loved.
Well, it's a little bit of a cheat, and I don't have them all here in front of me, to be honest, because a lot of them live in my workspace.
Yeah.
Now this technically comes out this week, but the Mondo Macabro version was released last year. So this is I got a lot of glare here between my lamp and my TV.
I see it.
So it's a haunted Turkish bath. So not really a cheat, but when we licensed the movie that we're releasing with Neon Eagle, Jared came to us and said, "Who's your contact at that label? We have some things we wanted." And that is one of the things they got out of that deal that they made with the Japanese. This easily could have been a Neon Eagle title. It is so wild. The first half of it is kind of this mean-spirited Japanese exploitation movie where this really awful guy kind of makes his I guess it's his wife, maybe just his girlfriend. I don't think it's exactly clear, but sells her into prostitution, and then prostitution is made illegal, so they just turn all the brothels into bathhouses. So it's basically prostitution with a bath now. But then all of a sudden there's an evil cat monster for the last half of the movie. Yeah. So
a la House.
You have this really nasty Japanese movie that's kind of one style, and then all of a sudden it flips over to this crazy revenge style ghost cat movie.
Yeah.
And it's terrific. And it was a first time watch. And that for me is the best discovery, is when you find these hidden gems that, you take a chance on watching, because there's a million things everyone wants to catch up on. And then it's just so terrific.
Yeah. Yeah. They had a release. Once again, I'm blanking on something. There was one release Mondo had earlier that was, I think, right around the same time that was released. And then, God, I'm blanking on it. I'll find it later. But I think we watched. I remember that plot line.
We covered it when it was announced.
Yeah, I might have watched it because the plot line sounds so familiar. But because we watched so much stuff for getting ready for shows, I could have watched it. I don't know. But but it sounds like a lot of fun. And what Mondo does, I'm just starting to get more into Mondo Macabro, and they just got so much great stuff that I'm discovering over there that I got to buy. So
I have got literally every Mondo release starting from when they were in the UK.
Oh, wow.
It's always been one of my favorite labels. So it was such a thrill when they wanted to do this Neon Eagle, when Jared came to us. But also, I love those guys over there. So
yeah,
it's an easy top 5 pick for me for 2022.
Yeah, and I'm getting that Bollywood horror set. It's
already. Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steven brought that up and one time, remember? And it was just kind of like, yeah, it
was right away. As soon as I had the money to buy it, I was like, I'm getting that. But Andrew, what is your first pick?
Oh man, I
saw you scrambling around over there.
Oh, I'm scrambling because I got stuff around me constantly. But I guess first of all, I'll go with the easiest one first, and this is me. I guess does it have to be boutique?
No, it'd be whatever you want it to be. It's 2022.
So first up is going to be the 4K of The Godfather. Just because it's the Godfather trilogy, but it does include The recut of Godfather Part 3, Godfather Coda, I think it's what the Death of Michael Corleone, I think is in the official title. Yeah, an interesting fact about this set is the original cut of Godfather Part 3 is in it, but it's like on a separate disc way in the back, so that maybe you just don't notice it. It really pretty much telling you that yeah, that's not the official version of that movie anymore. But the reason why I brought this out is one, obviously for its classic nature and its importance in mainstream film history, but also the fact that it looks amazing. That it just like they really, Paramount has really kind of woken up over the last couple of years and really invested a lot of time and money into their back catalog of doing 4Ks and then Blu-rays, but really opening up the coffers and putting in a lot of effort, which surprised the heck out of me because they were dormant for a very long time in terms of like their back catalog of stuff. Even their more well-known stuff, they were kind of given a little older lackadaisical Blu-ray treatments too. I think of like early Blu-ray releases of something like Sunset Boulevard. That's something that I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to and put out a Blu-ray 4K of or something like that. But yeah, because this movie looks fantastic, and I'm always um in favor of them re-releasing these old movies because it gives them a chance to um, clean up and make the movies look better than they've ever looked before, but also kind of preserve them even longer because as we all know, The Godfather has been used so many times and viewed so many times that the old original elements, I think, eventually ended up falling apart. I think that's what Coppola said in his special feature one time that they made so many copies from the original negative that it just disintegrated or something like that. So it's nice that they're able to preserve these movies. And this is a nice set. They released a much bigger, more deluxe set that was tougher to find, but I went for the standard regular edition.
Yeah.
The bigger set, the packaging was so flimsy.
I
Oh,
didn't
was it?
like it. That's what I saw
No, it
too. I
was
did
not
not
good.
like the packaging on that.
I was not happy with it. I mean, they look like garbage when they came into me.
Wow.
So by the time I'm
Mm,
shipping them to anybody, they're going to be double garbage.
Mm.
yeah, I bet you the discs probably it was one of I think it was one of those where the discs probably got loose because I remember
Yeah,
people opening it up and there's the discs would already be out. I
it's
mean,
terrible.
once that happens, it's not pleasant.
No.
Yeah. All right. Well, the first one I'm going to highlight now. This one I think I would say I want to highlight this one because I really like the movie and the filmmaker. It's a good release, but the thing is I don't think there's any features on this release. But it's a filmmaker I'm really enjoying, and a release that came on early in the year that I don't think people were remembering very much, and that's from the label Altered Innocence, Pals, which is
Mm,
from Eli
yes.
de Iglesias, and he's a filmmaker I'm really loving. I'm loving all the stuff that's been put out by him, whether it's Severance stuff, put out like Cannibal Man, put out the Kinky films. I'm really loving his work, and this film Pals is great. It's kind of like um, it's like a friend. It's like a girlfriend gets pregnant. He's got to find ways to make money. It gets into weird. They do weird things to get money. Like they start selling drugs for this crime guy. It's a weird movie. Weird kind of sex comedy teenager thing that only Eloy de Iglesias can tell it in a way that is kind of dangerous yet kind of loving. There's some good music in the film too. Yeah, I really enjoy his films, and I just thought this was one I wanted to bring up, even though unfortunately there's no features. I really wish they would have put some features on there, but yeah, it's just a film I really liked and wanted to make sure I brought up. So, Pals, Eloy de Iglesias.
We did his Murder in a Blue World,
Murder on the Blue Road. Yep.
and it was tough to get extras for it because he's gone. Sue Lyon died while we were making the features for it. So and COVID was going on, so it was tough.
Yeah.
So sometimes getting those special features together are really rough.
Yeah, I understand. I definitely understand. I know sometimes there's not a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've talked about people who've gone through heck and back trying to make features, trying to track people down
What
all over the world.
And if nobody's seen the movie and has enough information to do a commentary or anything about the film, then there isn't nobody to talk about it. I mean, it's not. I get it. I just still wish there was some. Okay, I'm not upset. I'm not that upset.
It's tough sometimes.
I like the movie, so that's enough for me. But yeah, all right, Jesse. What else you got next?
All right, I have got now. This one was something that was only available from the director's website. Now, I always get the title of this wrong. It is the Out There Halloween Mega Tape, which is technically the WNUF Halloween Special Part 2. So what they've done is made a fake documentary about these people who are investigating a UFO cult. And it's supposed to be a network broadcast, so they have fake commercials all throughout it that are all really clever and really well done. And if you're a fan of the WNUF special, which is terrific, then you should also be a big fan of this. And I just want more from Chris that directed this. It's so great. There's something really big in his future.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I got to check that out. I've never heard of that.
It's great. They did the WNUF special was one of the TerrorVision titles that was a Vinegar Syndrome partner label, but they've since
branched
left.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's still available, that title.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have to check into that, man. Awesome pick. Andrew, what you got next?
Yes. Okay. As I'm scrabbling around over here.
Not really.
I'm ready. I've got one. I just got to get back to the tab where you guys are so I can actually see myself in frame. One that I'm going to pick is a re-release that Imprint did of a movie that had a kind of I believe a bare bones keynote release from years ago, and that is On the Beach, the Stanley Kramer film. And the reason why I'm picking this release is one, because they gave it the super kind of deluxe treatment with their hard cigarette style box and whatnot, but they also loaded it up with special features, which was a welcome surprise because, like I said, the Blu-ray release we got over here didn't have, I don't think, anything on it. And it also came with a second disc that I believe is just kind of a documentary as well. It's a 2013 documentary, and I just really like this film when we had to review for the show, starring Gregory Peck, Ava Gardner, Fred Astaire, and Anthony Perkins. And it's kind of like a what if, doomsday scenario type movie. And I find myself really liking it a lot. It's very political, of course, being done by Stanley Kramer. That seemed to be his thing back in the day, was him making these political commentary films back in the 50s and 60s. And yeah, I really like this release a lot. There's a pleasant surprise for me. And I know this ended up selling rather quickly, as a lot of the Imprint titles do, as Jesse may or may not probably knows, but these are selling hotter this year than I think Imprint's ever sold before. And a lot of their stuff just ends up selling out really quickly. So I'm getting able to get one before it did was, I thought, fortuitous for me, at least. So yeah, On the Beach by Imprint.
It's one that's in my pile of things to watch.
Yeah.
I've actually never seen it at all, so it'll be a first time watch when I
hadn't seen it until we had to cover it. That was another one of those where I guess was one that I was missing that other people probably had already seen.
Yep, still got to get it. It's one of many. Imprints. Like you said, it's a label that
it's tough to keep up.
They put out a lot, but it's also just that their stuff's a little pricey. So you wait to the right time. You wait for the right time, but then you can't wait too long because then they become hard to find. Yeah,
I have to say, their Black Friday deals were good, but
they didn't realize
it's been a month and a half, and they haven't even shipped my stuff yet. So it is tough, but it is a tough situation.
They were in the middle.
I
know they were in the middle of moving to another location. Their warehouse was. I think that's part of the reason why they.
Yeah, I'm just saying that because it's a big undertaking to have a Black Friday sale of any kind, and there's a lot of logistics that need to be put in place for that thing to go well, because once people get that Black Friday fever, they go crazy. I know their site crashed as soon as their sale went live. So
Yeah.
that just tells you everything you need to know about people's fervor, to get stuff.
All right. Well, my next pick is one that was another great discovery for me this year, and I can't wait to pick up the other 2 volumes plus the other double feature that Vinegar Syndrome's putting out with this filmmaker, and that is Doris Wishman, The Twilight Years. This was the first group of films that they released from AGFA. So yeah, not Vinegar Syndrome, but it's an AGFA release, plus Something Wild. So, but when we covered this on the show, back when it first was announced, I watched Deadly Weapons and Double Agent 73. Loved both of them films. So endearing, just so fun, and just the fact that it's a female director doing these kind of risque type of movies where you literally have a very well endowed woman just using her tits to like shoot you like a gun. Like they're
sexploitation to the extreme.
And it's just they're just really, like I said, endearing movies. Like they're what I'm not going to sit here and try to compare it to The Shawshank Redemption. It's not what we're trying to do. But these have their place, and I've gone on to watch some of the other films. I went to the end of this set and watched a movie called Love Toy. And that whole movie is literally a guy, a man who's kind of a gambler that gets in. He loses everything he has with this guy he's playing these poker games in his house with, and basically he sells his daughter. Basically, he's like, "I'll give you all your stuff back, but you got to let me have a night with your daughter." And he, in desperation, does it. And then can't take it back, and then so the whole rest of the movie is this guy playing sex games with the daughter for like an hour and 20 minutes. And there's something about it that's interesting. Like it's, she's a very fascinating filmmaker, and I can't wait to keep going through her stuff. So yeah, that once again, another great discovery. And I love how they do the sets where can be magnetically put together like that.
My shelf doesn't like them though, because I've got like 10 of them.
Yeah.
And 10 of each volume, and they're all stuck together on the shelf.
But yeah.
So I literally have 30 pieces of those stuck together on the shelf.
Like a block.
Yeah, you gotta pry them apart.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's a great discovery for me. I can't wait to get the other. I'll probably pick them up at the next sale. But yeah, please go check out Doris Wishman. She's a really interesting filmmaker. All right, Jesse, what is your next pick?
My next pick I don't have sitting here.
Okay.
But it is the Criterion Lost Highway UHD.
Nice.
Yeah, Lost Highway just hits everything for me. It's my favorite Lynch. It's such a great movie, but also it is so creepy and unnerving. And I don't know that it makes a whole lot of sense, the whole movie, but I just love everything about that movie. It's far away my favorite Lynch, who I love too. So, that's saying a lot.
I have to agree with you. I think I kind of, the more I think about his filmography, a lot of times I go back to Eraserhead. I really love Eraserhead, but honestly, after watching Lost Highways, probably for the second time, I was like, I think this is my favorite. This is my favorite Lynch. So
I mean, there's so much to choose from. I mean, Elephant Man's terrific. I adore Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet was probably the first David Lynch movie that I saw, and at the time that I saw it, I didn't get it or appreciate it at all. I was just like, this is what everyone's crazy about. Is Blue Velvet. It was probably Twin Peaks that really started. Now I watched that. I guess I was maybe in college when that was on, so I watched that in real time unfold, and it's just terrific. And I think Lost Highway takes the best elements of of the weirdness of Twin Peaks and makes that kind of narrative out of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good pick. I haven't been able to. I haven't picked up the disc yet, but
I still need to get it.
But I've
because
heard it looks great. I heard it looks great.
I heard it looks great.
Terrific.
Ironically, is that I think I just bought the Kino Blu-ray. Like,
yeah, I have the
year.
I mean, it was $5 a couple months ago. So.
Yeah, I waited. Like, I was like, oh, I guess no one else is gonna release this, or I guess this is the best we get. Is this Kino bare bones Blu-ray? So I guess I'll just buy it in one of their many sales they have for like less than $10.
Yeah, it was it was literally $5 when they were trying to get rid of them before their license was up.
Yeah, so. I bet. Yeah, and it's like I got that disc now, and now I want the Criterion, so now I don't know what to do with that disc. I don't need it.
They had a similar situation happen with the the Thriller release from Synapse.
Such a weird thing.
Yeah, where it's
that was because but that was a little different because they tried to release that like kind of simultaneously.
Well, no, what it was is that they tried to release it with a cut of the movie that wasn't really restored, I think, fully or something like that.
Right. But I'm just talking about like in terms of like timing of the release. Like they tried to release those like very close to one another in terms of
it was right around the time that the Synapse one was being put out. I think the Vinegar Syndrome one was being announced like slightly after it had just been released or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's weird. That was a weird situation. I don't really know what happened there, but you know, we got the Vinegar Syndrome release.
All I know is that the Vinegar Syndrome, that thing sold out quick.
You know, it's a good movie either way, but I'm glad we got it. But Andrew, what's your next one?
My next one is the BFI 4K release of Get Carter, the Mike Hodges film, who Mike Hodges just recently passed away.
Yeah.
You know, rest in peace, Mike Hodges. We've been talking about him a lot lately on the podcast in the last year or so because a lot of his movies have been getting releases. And a lot of people have been discovering his work or rediscovering his work. But this is, of course, the movie starring the Michael Caine. And I know they did a remake with Sylvester Stallone in what, like 2000?
That one's better,
like
man. That one's better.
It's got Stallone.
Yes, Stallone. Yeah.
Michael Caine. I never even heard of that guy. He doesn't use a cane.
That's just
Alfred. Looks like he walks fine.
That's just Alfred.
Yeah, I guess so. But the biggest surprise for me when it comes to this release is not only the fact that it looks amazing, is the fact that it is just loaded with endless amounts of special features, interviews and conversations and all kind of behind the scenes and just, you know, scholarly work about the movie. And there's even an interview with Mike Hodges on it from 2022. So probably one of the last interviews he did before he passed away. So this is just a welcome for me because I never owned this movie in any other format. Didn't own the DVD or the Blu-ray release that I think Warner Brothers put out years ago, which I think went out of print because this was on its way out. Kind of surprised they haven't released it here in Region A land yet because this is a Warner Brothers release. Technically, they got their logo all over it, but it is technically put out by the BFI in the UK, but it is region free as UHD currently is. So I do highly recommend this disc. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with the Blu-ray, you know, counterpart. It's literally just the 4K disc.
Yeah, well, I mean, the good thing about that is any features that are on it are region free. So
I guess that's also true.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. Now that I open up it, I believe it's just. Well, it does have a Blu-ray, but I believe it's a special features Blu-ray.
Well, then that's bad. Then that's bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Never mind.
Take that back, Steven.
Yeah, take
that.
Never mind.
You know,
open it up. Yeah.
Technically, the special features should not be locked, but they probably are. But
yeah,
you know, when
I've noticed that on several discs. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't put any for the City of the Living Dead. We didn't put any extras on the movie discs.
Yeah.
So that we didn't have to lock it. So all the extras are unlocked.
That's good. Yeah.
By the way, for Get Carter, I very highly recommend. Last year they put out the Limey.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Which was really weird that it was a 4K steelbook at Best Buy, but then there's been no other release of it. That was the old version of it.
Yeah. I would say I think they'll end up probably releasing a regular version of it, I guess. It's weird the way a lot of companies are doing that now. Lionsgate's doing that. Sony, I think, maybe doing that, where they're putting out the Steelbook first and then the regular edition later, where I thought it would be much easier to do the opposite. Like a regular edition first with standard packaging, and then a special edition Steelbook later.
It's a strategy for collecting. They know the collectors like the Steelbooks,
And then like they'll put out both at the same time, because I know they just announced Training Day. Warner Brothers just announced Training Day, and they're putting out Steelbook of that as well as a regular edition. Do not like the cover art on that on either of any of those releases. It's pretty.
Let's not start talking about bad cover art, because then we got to talk about like the new 100 the Disney releases recently came out. All that crap.
I'll say this: boutique labels have the best cover art of anything. They really do.
Most of the time.
I mean, there's a group of people that kind of everyone's been working with that are so great. They've just been knocking it out of the park with everything.
Yeah. We've had a couple different artists or designers on. Scott Saslow does a lot of design work with he's done a lot of Arrow stuff. We've had Sister Hyde on, and she does a lot of great work.
Terrific.
So she did the Criterion Elephant Man. She did Martin Scorsese shorts, if I remember correctly.
She did my Pal's release. She did she put the nipple. She put the nipple on that slipcover.
She did our Collingswood Story release.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, my next pick's one of the big guys. One of the ones that a lot of people talk about, and that is this Drive 4K release.
I hate you for having that.
I know. Sorry. But amazing release. It's got 2 literal books in it. One's the novel of Drive, and then
Shelf Space be damned.
I've never cared about shelf space. Why would I start now? Amazing release. Some great features. Some really cool features in this. I know Nicholas Winding Refn had a lot to do with this release when it came to design, because when we talked to Philip Escott, he told us, he was really involved with, getting, they sent it to the lab, to the team that did this film originally. So they knew how it needed to look. The 4K transfer looks amazing.
Yeah. My favorite story is when he talked about trying to hunt down the original elements of it, and they couldn't find them.
Yeah. It was on a drive somewhere. They thought they lost it forever.
Yeah, they lost it. It was on a drive somewhere in some archive.
Some new
it's like
movie.
Crazy that Refn didn't even have it, I guess.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But some of the features in here are really great. If you're following the Shelf Shock Rewind Awards, there's a couple of these features that are put in there. But it's I'm sorry for people that weren't able to get this. I'm sure it's going for like $2,000 now on eBay.
It's not that expensive, but it is expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't always like his movies, but I always want to watch them. And I'm always interested in what he's doing. He had that show on Amazon called Too Old to Die Young, which was basically a 14-hour movie. And Amazon just doesn't give a shit about this thing, and it's just buried on their streaming service, but it's there. And now he's got a new series on Netflix that just started this week. And it's really curious to me that these companies keep giving him money to make these streaming shows when he doesn't really seem to be a big box office draw. It's not like he's making big movies and then these streaming shows.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's not really a complaint, because give me all of the Refn stuff. I want it all. Neon Demon was so cool.
Yeah, I love Neon Demon.
Drive. The
Bronson
Pusher series is so good.
Yeah, Bronson.
I think about Bronson a lot. That's the movie that sticks
Bronson,
in my head.
I forgot he did. That's terrific, right?
Yeah.
That movie is haunting. That was another movie. I have this thing where I watch movies late at night, like, the twilight hours.
That's literally the only time you watch movies.
Yeah, like basically past midnight. I watched Bronson. I probably watched Bronson at like 3 a.m. and it was one of the most surreal experiences you could ever have, because it's like a music video for most of that movie,
And
like just psychedelic music video.
Yeah.
Greases himself up and fights everybody.
That
movie's terrific. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And he did that. I never saw it, but it always looked interesting. Only God Forgives.
Oh, I saw it.
It's terrific.
Is it cool?
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
It's a unique movie. I mean, another film he did that people really don't talk about was Valhalla Rising. With
God, that's a rough movie. I forgot about that too. Jeez.
Yeah.
I love this guy.
That movie is
what am I doing?
Yeah.
You just keep bringing up all these movies. I forgot there were even his movies. I love them.
Well, actually, one of his works that I kind of really wait for a deluxe edition to come out of is his Pusher trilogy. It kind of his early films. And it's like those movies really haven't seen any real quality Blu-ray release or anything like that really anywhere. It's mostly just on DVD.
It's coming from it's coming from Cauldron. I know he's holding it back. He's acting like he doesn't know what he's talking. It's coming from Cauldron.
I would love it, believe me. I will be honest that it's on my list of things that I would love to do. They all just popped up on streaming, all three of them. I can't remember what channel they were on, but I saw them on. I use the Just Watch app that shows you everything that's new, and it was on something weird, like what is it, Paramount Plus or?
Jeez, that's a random place, yeah.
That's a random
for
place
the movies.
I went to the Fantastic Fest in Austin one time, just once, and one of the programs they did was Nicholas Winding Refn picked a movie out of the AGFA archive to show and came out and introduced it. And it was Farewell, Uncle Tom, which is the movie where a documentary film crew goes back in time and documents slavery, but in a really lascivious and exploitative way.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just, they made an exploitation movie about slavery, for Christ's sake. And I just saw that Blue Underground is I think they're doing a 4K of it.
Yeah, that's the movie that Blue Underground's doing a 4K on.
Yeah.
And they just came out with an update about it, saying that that they're working on it.
Yeah, that movie's something. So I saw it in a crowded theater, and Refn introduced it, and I'm maybe a little embarrassed to say that was the third time I'd seen the movie, because I saw it on DVD when it came out, and then we showed it at Exhumed Films one time, and then I was like, okay, I never need to see this movie again, and then again I saw it the third time. So I'll buy the 4K, but
of course obviously you got to keep watching it.
Yeah, I don't know if I have to watch that movie again. Well, I'm going to jump in because I was going to say Drive as well.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to say another Second Sight release, which is their release of The Witch.
Oh, yeah.
Which is terrific.
That's a great one, yeah.
It's great. It's another big set, just like the Drive set. It's gorgeous. And goddamn, I love that movie. You know, I saw that at the same Fantastic Fest.
Yeah, yeah.
That I saw the Farewell, Uncle Tom. And Robert Eggers was there to introduce the movie. And I'd never heard of the guy. I just heard whispering of this new movie coming out, The Witch. And I was blown away by it. I love the movie. And this release is really terrific.
Yeah, it is. It is. The commentary on there by, I think her name's Anna Balakowski. I can't say her last name. Can't say it.
Boy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Don't ask me to.
Look it up.
But she's really good. I know she's like a film. I believe she's from the UK, and she's a writer. But her commentary on there is amazing. And the book, you know, it's literally a hard book in that package. Great release. You know, Robert Eggers is a filmmaker. I'm not like super fan of The Northman, but The Lighthouse, I love The Lighthouse.
I thought it was terrific.
Yeah, and am I forgetting something?
Yeah.
No, that he's got 3 movies.
Yeah, but he's working on Nosferatu. I think maybe his next film.
Hopefully,
which
I'm really
when he was doing the interview rounds for Northman, he said that was dead. He said he wasn't doing that. So I was a little surprised to hear that he was doing it.
It's been a rumored for a long time, and I think he keeps getting. There's rumor that he keeps getting somebody else has picked, helped him finance it. Blah blah blah. I don't think that it's ever been legitimately like we know that it's coming. So I think it's still a rumor, but
I hope it's coming.
I hope it happens one day.
Yeah, and that the person you were talking about, Steven, it says here, audio commentary by film writer and broadcaster Anna Boguskawa.
Yeah,
see, there's a reason why I couldn't pronounce it.
Yeah, it is a rather difficult name.
I'm not even going to attempt it because I don't want to embarrass myself.
But great.
Steven's not afraid to.
I'm afraid to. I'm not afraid to embarrass myself. I do.
He is not afraid.
Sometimes I do it on purpose, just because it's part of
just to see what happens.
Yeah. I thought about messing up your name, even though it's an easy name to say. I was thinking of saying your name like GC Nelson.
Oh boy.
I get Jeffy all the time.
Jeffy.
Jeffy. Yeah.
Yes, is right there. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, who knows? But yeah, which release great. Second Sight, you could just go all day with Second Sight. They're pretty top notch.
Yeah, I'm slowly falling in love with their releases, which is not good because now I have to go back and get The Witch.
A lot of them are.
And try to track down.
You can get the standard editions, but yeah.
Don't insult me.
I'm sorry. Andrew, your next pick.
My next pick is a movie that I waited years to finally get announced, and it did come out right around my birthday, actually, and that is John Waters' Pink Flamingos, the Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection. This was rumored and anticipated for many, many years, pretty much since the moment they started putting out his movies, Multiple Maniacs and Female Trouble. It was just a matter of time, I guess, before Pink Flamingos showed up in the Criterion Closet. This is now in the National Registry, and it will be preserved for all of time.
I was going to say, I finally watched this movie with this release. I bought this release. And it needs to be in the registry. I mean,
it's the midnight movie
that somebody eats shit in. I mean,
it's a shame that's what people remember the movie for, because
I know
there's so much more in it.
Funny.
It is.
Oh, it is
all the way through. I love the egg lady.
Yeah.
I love the egg lady so much.
He's in love with the Eggman, naturally.
Yeah.
John Waters' work, I've talked about it a million times here.
He's in love with John Waters.
I mean, how could you not be? He's so unapologetically himself and unique. And he also, I think, emboldens a lot of people to be themselves, whether they believe that they're weird or they don't fit in society. But to him and to kind of the movies that he's making, it's like you fit in this kind of, carousel of weird people. You know what I mean? And it makes you feel okay to be yourself, because no one is weirder than the characters in his movies. It's just impossible. But Pink Flamingo is one of his most notorious movies, kind of his first breakout film, because the movies he had done before this were a couple of shorts, and then Multiple Maniacs was kind of one of his early first features. But this was the one that really put him on the map, and he's working on a new movie now, actually, finally, after all these years of kind of being in hiatus and just writing books and stuff. So when this got announced, I had to get it right away. Cool packaging too. If you see it wrapped up as like someone would send you a package in the mail, that goes into that's part of the movie and stuff. Incredible film, just something you have to experience.
Yeah, the rare slipcover from Criterion,
which they don't do often.
John Waters has one of my favorite quotes, and I'm probably not going to get this correct words for word, but he said one time, if you're going out with someone and you go home with the person and they don't have any books, don't fuck them.
Yeah, that's from a stand-up.
I love that. I agree, 100%. They don't have any books.
Yeah, he's got endless amounts of quotes. I've watched his stand-up, This Filthy World, that from like 2006 a million times. I have it on DVD, actually. I know he's supposed to shoot a part 2 to that, like a more recent one. I hope that gets some type of release somewhere. But yeah, just watch interviews with him when he talks about his favorite movie of all time is The Wizard of Oz, and the reason, the way he describes that and whatever. Just he's an amazing individual. Yeah, he did the commencement speech at one of the local colleges several years ago at RISD, and Yeah, and it's kind of ironic because I think he opened it saying, "It's kind of ironic that I'm getting an honorary degree because I've been kicked out of every school I ever went to." And it's like, yeah, I guess so. I think he said like, "Yeah, just go out in the world and fuck shit up." I think that was what he told the kids, and I'm like, "Good, good,
Yeah,
tell them."
love it.
All right.
Steven?
Well, my next pick, the only box set technically on my list. It's hard. There's a lot of great box sets that come out every year, but I went with, and this was also tough because there's 2 volumes of this, and I think because I've been going through this one fairly recently, I really wanted to put this one out, and that's the second volume of the After Dark Neo Noir Cinema series. Yeah, great collection. If you listen to this show, you know me and Andrew are big noir fans, and neo noir is no exception, of course. And honestly, going through this set, I think I might even enjoy the films in this set more than I enjoy from the first set. There are some great ones in the first set, but there's something about this group of films that I really loved. Blue Steel, the Jamie Lee Curtis film, that was directed by Catherine Bigelow, is a really cool film that I hadn't seen. That the features really opened my eyes to what that movie's about. Like, it has some really interesting kind of interpretations that have kind of been awakened through the years. And then Internal Affairs with Richard Gere. You see Richard Gere like you've never seen him in this movie. He's playing a bad guy in this movie, and he's
like he's a dirty cop.
He's a dirty
right?
cop,
Yeah.
and he's really intense in this movie. Crimson Rivers is basically your Seven, but in France.
Yeah, that's what Jean Reno.
Yeah, and it takes it to the mountains of France, and it's a cool movie as well. The Way of the Gun, Christopher McQuarrie film. He's mostly known for working with Tom Cruise now and everything
Mission
he does.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Super underrated movie, by the way. Way of the Gun.
Yeah, Way of the Gun.
Yeah.
Super. Yeah.
Great kind of Mexican standoff climax to the movie.
It's so
bloody
good.
well done.
Yeah, it's very clever writing in that film. The Yards, which is a James Gray film, which I think James Gray is an underrated director. I've talked about this. I like to connect movies that don't really connect, but like this film and another film he did, We Own the Night, are a very good double feature, I think, because they're both kind of noirish, both
both kind of street level movies.
Both have some of the same actors, Joaquin Phoenix, Mark Wahlberg. It's a solid film. And then it ends with Narc, which has got the late Ray Liotta in it, and then
Jason
Patrick, who shows up in a lot of these. I think he's in 2 films in the first set.
He was in a lot of those gritty movies in the 90s.
Yeah,
I just feel like because he's in one of the movies in the first collection.
Yeah, he's in 2 films.
Yeah, he's in Rush.
He's in Rush, and he's in a good. Was it My Sweet something?
After Dark, My Sweet.
After Dark, My Sweet. Yeah,
which is also a great movie too, based on a Jim Thompson novel.
Yeah. So, Narc is kind of one of them films I remember seeing when it first came out, and I was young then, so I didn't really think much of it. But
Joe Carnahan.
Yeah, Joe Carnahan, and rewatching it again, it's a really solid film. I really like it, and very intense opening, and it's another great set. I hope they do more of these because they're just really a good way to get a good chunk of solid films all in one set. They are pricey, but you're getting.
I was going to say, I hope they do more and they lower the price just a little bit.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's the dream.
That one's a little expensive.
It is. It is.
And for me as a retailer, getting those in from Australia and pulling the first one out of the box and it's crushed is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. It would.
That hurt just thinking about it.
I would be in tears a lot of times. If all the stuff I'm sure you have to set aside to not sell has got to be ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize that was such an issue with retailers.
Well, the thing is too, for him, he knows that if there's just one damn bent little corner,
people are not going to buy it.
People aren't they're gonna give him shit later for selling it to him. So
it's true.
Yeah. So
So I guess it's my turn.
This is the final pick. This is the number one, I believe. So
I have so many things left on my list here, but let's do this. I have to give a shout out to, and I've already talked about this plenty, to our own release of Contraband,
of course,
and a big shout out to my partner for bringing this back from the dead. If you guys haven't seen Contraband, it is a Lucio Fulci Italian crime movie with Lucio Fulci levels of gore in it. So it is just bonkers and mean spirited. And there's a really, I don't think we've ever mentioned this anywhere, but there's a really nasty rape scene in the movie, and we chapter stopped the rape scene so you could actually skip right over it and go to as soon as it ends, so you don't have to see any of it if you don't want to. I don't think we've ever mentioned that we did that, but it's true. It's really rough. But the movie is great.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I just want to give a couple shout outs to a couple of labels. We talked about Error 444. Their 2 Category 3 releases that just came out not that long ago of Red Spell, Spells Red, and Centipede Horror are terrific. And, I think that recently a lot of labels have picked up these Category 3s, like Unearthed, did Dr. Lamb, and Untold Story, and Vinegar Syndrome did Ebola Syndrome. Those are the kind of marquee Category 3 titles. But these 2 are kind of the they're not bottom of the barrel at all, is not what I mean to say, but they are the lesser known, and people should really seek them out if they liked the Category 3 movies. And the other label I wanted to shout out to is Fun City Editions, who's one of the Vinegar Syndrome partner labels, who just keeps picking these cherry titles out of, I guess out of MGM's vault. And they did this year Married to the Mob, which is a great Jonathan Demme movie. They did Cutter's Way, which is really great, and Natural Enemies,
dude, yeah,
which is also a real tough one.
I got them all next to me.
Yeah, so a huge shout out to them. Now I will say that I saw they were doing Parker Posey's Party Girl, which also just popped up on the Criterion channel. So I got really excited and watched it, and I fucking hated it. I thought it was terrible. But
that was a heck of a twist there.
Yeah, but I will say this: it's a product of a time.
Yeah,
and my wife really enjoyed it.
There you go.
It just wasn't for me.
It's not for you. Yeah, I get.
Yeah.
I get it.
Understandable.
Yeah,
not every movie's for everyone.
Andrew doesn't know this right now, but we are going to have Jonathan Hertzberg on for a special pop in next week for next Tuesday, just to talk to us about this new, him doing Fun City's going to team up a little bit with MVD. And, with the new Party Girl release, we're going to talk to him a little bit about that stuff for a little special pop-in episode in the middle of next week.
Yeah, he's been on before. It was sometime last year. Actually,
when Born to Win came out is when we had him on last. So that was beginning of the year, last year, around this time last year. So
he's got a terrific eye for picking things out, and I just hope it continues. I mean, even Party Girl, I'm so glad that it's getting a release, because it is kind of one of those great cult movies that is just disappeared.
Yeah.
So it's not for me, but maybe it's for you.
I watched it. It was fine. I mean, I watched it. It's not my favorite. It's not, to me. Some of the other films that came out during the year, like Coca-Cola Kid, and
terrific.
And, some of them were better discoveries for me that I liked more. And like Born to Win was another one that I just really loved. I mean, it's fine. I'm not. We're going to talk about it a little bit more later in the show.
I was going to say, save
don't
your
mention
thoughts
I
for
said
later.
No. Yeah. I'll cut this part.
I'll bring that up.
That's a preview of things to come.
But yeah, that's great. It's great. Yeah, all them smaller labels that are just not getting as I think people have a fervor for the. Hopefully, there gets to be more attention for, labels like Arrow 4444. And I think Fun City. I think there is a fan base that's growing quickly there.
They're terrific. They're those titles are all Criterion level titles. I mean,
yeah.
I'm surprised that Criterion didn't have Married to the Mob.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest surprise releases of the year. Was
considering
when they
put out Something Wild, which came out around the same time in Jonathan Demme's career. That would kind of make sense that they would scoop that movie up as well to show to have in their collection.
Yeah, and Silence of the Lambs.
And Silence of the Lambs too. It's like they have everything around it. It's like they have everything around it. They just decided that I guess we'll skip over that.
Yeah.
Weird. But for me, I guess I'll go with my last title here. And my last title, I guess to no big surprise, is the Shawscope Volume 2 set, which came out right at the end of the year. We had anticipated this, I guess, since the first one came out. They already previewed this, and this came out right around early December, and it's just as impressive as the first set. I think maybe even more impressive just because they did it again. You know what I mean? They recaptured the same magic when it comes to the packaging, when it comes to the movies in the set. And also, I really like how this one looks next to the first film. The first box set, where the first one is blue, this one's more of an orange color. I felt like those two color schemes go very well together if you're portraying it on the shelf in your collection. And yeah, this is once again another wonderfully crafted set. Really just well to do with the book packaging, with the large booklet inside. It's rectangular, not the most shelf friendly set, but it is a nice display piece. And I just love the fact that we're getting so much of the back catalog of the Shawscope films and all of that. I mean, right now it seems like there's a handful of companies, as you probably know, Jesse, that are just chugging out new Chinese martial arts films every single month.
I love it.
Eureka, 88 Films, Arrow seem to be doing it all. They're like in an arms race of who can put out the most in so much time.
Yeah.
And it's tough to keep up of who's putting out what where, because some companies will put out the same. One will put out the movie in the UK. One will put out a US version. One will have one that came out a couple of years ago that's getting a re-release now from another company. It's a whole big thing, kind of carousel and puzzle to kind of figure out. But this set here is kind of a great baseline. I think the first volume and this volume, if you're looking for, a place to start collecting Shaw Brothers films, I think these two sets are really a great place to start. Because they're just a cross collection of stuff from the 70s going up through the 80s. Especially this set has a lot of their later stuff, which I know, isn't exactly their prime stuff. Especially going into the 90s, it's just kind of unique to see kind of the changing of their style throughout their history.
Yeah.
If anyone has that box set in their possession and has never seen Boxer's Omen, pull that out and watch it tonight.
It's a good one. Yeah.
I want a box set of all of those crazy Shaw Brothers movies because there's so many of them. But Boxer's Omen, it might be the best. But then there's Seeding of the Ghost, and there's they did Mighty Peking Man in the first one, and The Oily Maniac, and then even some of the kung fu movies like The Buddha's Palm, where they fight a giant foot at one point. There's just such crazy stuff in their catalog. I want it all. Give it to me.
Well, they seem to not. They from what I understand, I think there's at least a couple more of these that are kind of been confirmed, I believe.
There's 750 Shaw Brothers movies.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. They made movies for decades, from like the 50s all the way up through the 90s, really. Yeah. Their catalog is deep. Them and Golden Harvest made movies for decades. And it's kind of nice that all of them are getting a relative deluxe treatment now, especially when it comes to the way the movies look. The movies look very, very good. And it's really nice. I know a lot of these movies have already seen the light of day when it comes to DVD and VHS and stuff like that. But it's just nice that a lot more people have access to them.
Yeah.
In high quality releases.
Yeah. All right. So
what's your final one, Steven?
My final ones. Sorry, Jesse. I know we went longer than I thought we would.
It's fine. When you said 90 minutes, I was like, sure.
Yeah, sure, whatever. He's fucking lying.
Sure, dude.
Steven talks too much.
Good try. No, you talk too much. Shut up.
I do.
Yeah. So I'm gonna highlight a couple real quick that are kind of honorable mentions because I want to get Indicator in there because I'm a big fan of Indicator's releases. The Pimeni Organization. These were films I don't really know if anybody heard of them until this was put out. The first short film in here, Hunted, amazing. Really great film, all set in one room where a guy wants to use a sniper kill somebody in the street, and there's a lady that's showing the room the guy's in. It's an apartment room, and she gets caught up in trying to stop him from doing it, and it's just a whole movie of her trying to talk him down. And it's great. It's fantastic. The other two movies are great too, but the big thing about this is look at all the features for films that you've never heard about. Look at that.
Yeah, that is quite a paragraph.
Yeah. So that's a big release for me. I think one of the most underrated releases of the year. Another one, and this isn't just because you're here, Jesse, but I love this film.
Oh, good. It's upside down now.
It is upside down.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to do. Shanghai Joe.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Love this film. It was a fun, like when you announced it, and then I watched it for the show. I was like, dude, I love this. I told Andrew, I was like, I'm buying this right away. As soon as this is ready to come out, and I started watching some features on it. I love the East meets West Italian style feature on there. It's great. It talks about how there's this whole genre of East meets West. And now it makes me want to go look at some of them other films that kind of follow the same kind of genre. Really fun movie. This is just one of the movies that you can just put on at any time and just, you don't have to, I mean, not saying you don't want to pay attention to the movie, but you don't have to, you don't have to. It's just one of the movies that you could just put on, and it's just there's always a scene that'll pop up that's just so fun where he's beating the shit out, he's fighting somebody, just really inventive stuff, and it looks great. The transfer looks really great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So my number one, and if anybody's been following us for a while, they know what my number one's going to be because I've been shouting it for a while, and that's the Severin release 4K of Out of the Blue. It's just such a great film. It's a film that kind of was kind of in limbo when it came to any kind of really good release of it, and finally we get a really great release. Severin initially I think was going to just put a Blu-ray out, but then they realized that they needed to go the extra mile, so they put a 4K out, and just a really great film. Linda Mans is an actress that just had a short life in film, but what she did was really impactful. And Dennis Hopper, of course, this is kind of in the middle of his, I believe he would just come back from rehab. And well, that probably happened a few times.
I was just gonna say which time.
Yeah.
You should listen to watch the special features for the American Friend.
Yeah.
And watch Wim Wenders tell about having to basically have him go to rehab before they could even make that movie because he was so out of it after doing Apocalypse Now with Coppola.
But basically with Out of the Blue, he took over this film and kind of, he became the director and put his stamp on it. And I just think it's just an astounding film. And the features on this it's one of the, I think one of the great extras packages of the year. Kat Ellinger's commentary is really amazing. And just tons of great features on here. That's my definitive, I think, number one for the year was this Out of the Blue release. But of course, just tons of amazing releases this year. You can't go wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. We have come into such another great age of home video here with everyone just kind of digging all this great stuff up. And I'm so glad to have it, and so glad that we have this boom of physical media. Not just because I have the shop, but because I'm such a movie lover as well,
Yeah.
and I love being able to explore these things. Even Party Girl.
Of course. He's pulling back, guys. He's pulling back on it. No, it's good. So I hate
Listen,
that damn movie.
I really did hate it, but I'm always glad to watch something like that.
Yeah.
And even if I don't like it, it's it was a product of its time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's always going to be movies that we buy. There's some movies in my collection that I bought out of curiosity, and I am like, you know what? I don't really need to watch that again. And it happens sometimes. And even though they sell it like it's something that's really like worth your time, but that's movies. Movies are subjective, and something's going to hit you, and some for some people, like your wife, and then some people are not going to. It's not going to be for them, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's things I keep just out of relevance, and as they say, you can't have some sunny days without some rainy days. So throwing in a crappy movie every once in a while is okay too. I mean, somebody will enjoy it,
Sure.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I guess if you need space on your shelf, you should probably get rid of them though. I don't know. That's just me. But let's let Jesse go, man.
I know. It is
all
late.
right, guys.
We still have.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you.
Awesome.
And of course, guys, Diabolik. If you don't know what Diabolik DVD is, I don't know what you're doing. It's one of the I think go-to places when you're talking about getting your physical media. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and just please go. Jesse's really communicative. He's always on Twitter. Talking about film and talking about releases, and when there's issues, he'll message with you and try to get things figured out. So that's a good place, I think. I would say to if you ever want to get in touch with Jesse, he'll talk with you. So
it's true.
Yeah, but all right, man. Well,
all right, thanks, guys.
You have a good rest of your. Well, you go to bed. I think.
I know it is late.
Yeah. I would already be asleep myself, but have a good night, Jesse.
Good night.
Well, that was Jesse Nelson from Diabolik DVD, Cauldron Films.
Yes.
Just a great dude.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we talked to him for quite a while. I think longer than we had anticipated, but sometimes that happens.
It's your fault.
Oh, I believe it. I blame myself for most things
too
in
much,
life.
Man. You just
talk too much.
It's like you do a podcast and you like to talk, and like.
You know what it is I think I've said this before. I got to get it all out. Out.
You need to do the Travis Bickle thing. Do it in the mirror, and then when we come to do the podcast, be a little bit trimmed down. Trim it down.
Well, I told you about myself, my Rupert Pupkin talking to myself type of deal, like I'm on the Jerry Lewis show in that movie.
I believe it. I believe it.
I believe it. It's impossible, Jerry. Impossible.
But yeah,
but we've got
to do announcements.
Yeah, we've got so much to go through.
Well, I was going to say, okay, look, I know we got a lot to go through, and I want to go through it, but we're going to have to speed through a lot of this.
We're going to speed it because a lot of this stuff we haven't even
seen on all this stuff.
Right on.
I know it sounds crazy, and I know I'm about to say a timetable needs to be done in the next hour.
We can do it.
Yeah,
I have great faith in us. I have a lot of faith in us.
Because I want to go to bed at midnight at least.
Okay. All right. So let's roll. So we will talk about Kino because we haven't talked about Kino in quite a while.
Let's do it.
And I think since like early December, but we've got to catch up on a bit here. Some stuff we may miss out on, but it's okay. First is, I think, a movie we haven't talked is If I Had a Million, starring Gary Cooper, W.C. Fields, Charles Laughton, George Raft. This is an interesting movie because this rich guy doesn't want to leave his money to his family, so he decides to give $1 million to random people. And he just goes around giving $1 million to random people.
Where was I that day?
Yeah, and it's just like, and it's just a whole crossroads of people. Like some are criminals, some are in the army, some are elderly, some are young. It's a whole big thing. So you just see these segments, and each segment is directed by a different director. Like one is directed by Ernst Lubitsch.
Oh, that's cool.
And so it's really, really cool. And you see all kind of actors that you'll recognize, like I just mentioned. A lot of them were before they became famous. So that's really cool. But the next movie is called Heat, and it's not the Heat, the Michael Mann Heat. This is the Heat starring Burt Reynolds, from 1986. It's Burt Reynolds kicking ass. The movie's written by William Goldman. Yeah, and directed by Dick Richards, who directed Farewell, My Lovely, which was an adaptation in the 70s, um, uh, starring, Stephen, Night of the Hunter. Who was
Charles
the Night
what?
of the Hunter? Yeah, Charles. Not who
The
starred
actor in
in it?
it, you mean?
Yes,
Oh,
the actor in it.
shit. Why would you do Mitchum?
Yes, Robert Mitchum.
Phew,
Uh,
that was hurt. That
he
hurt.
was in Farewell, My Lovely, and yeah, that one was a brain buster. And what is interesting is that, yeah, it's kind of just he's Burt Reynolds is a soldier of fortune, and he's just trying to like help people out. He gets caught up in um, kind of organized crime shenanigans and stuff, and
Mm.
he's gotta overcome it, and it's a cool movie starring Burt Reynolds. If you're a big Burt Reynolds fan, you'll think you'll dig it. Next is Arsene Lupin collection, and
What?
this has 3 movies in it: The Adventures of Arsene Lupin from 1957, Assigned Arsene Lupin 1959, and then Arsene Lupin vs. Arsene Lupin 1962, directed by Jacques Becker, Yves Robert, and Edouard Molinaro. Um, and it's kind of I believe he's like a detective of some kind, or is he a jewel thief or something like that? I'm thinking of like Lupin the Third of Miyazaki fame.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like a caper type of trilogy of movies. I know they had done a couple of these in the 30s, and they've done kind of Lupin type stuff afterward as well. Um, yeah, it's like, yeah, he is like a jewel thief. That's his thing.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's a cool like collection there. It's on 2 discs, so it's 3 movies on 2 discs. But next is Little Miss Marker, starring Adolphe Menjou and Shirley Temple. And this movie, we've actually already talked about the remake of this movie. The remake of this movie. Remember that movie I talked about, Sorrowful Jones, the
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
Bob Hope and Lucille Ball, I believe. That movie's a remake of this movie.
Okay.
Same exact premise.
All right.
Same exact premise, except Shirley Temple's the little girl.
All right.
So of course she's precocious and, just wonderfully cute on screen, and it's Shirley Temple. She was a huge star back in the 30s. I think she owned the box office like 4 years in a row in the 30s, I think. But next is a movie called High, Wide, and Handsome. Often I've been described that way, Stephen. I know you won't believe it.
I believe it, man.
Oh,
I
thank you.
believe it.
It's starring Irene Dunne and Randolph Scott. This is a movie that I actually don't know much about. It was directed by Ruben Mamoulian, who did Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and The Mark of Zorro, which is cool. But this is something that definitely has my interest because it's a 1937 film with Irene Dunne and Randolph Scott. That's the thing that kind of gets me. And these are all like coming soon. There's no real
Yeah.
definitive dates on these. It's the usual Kino log line, if you will. These could show up next week or they could show up next year, for all we know. Next is The Experts, starring John Travolta and Kelly Preston. This is a movie that did not have high marks on Letterboxd when I looked it up. Uh,
This was a down period for Travolta.
yeah,
so.
I would say, yeah, we talked about not Saturday Night Fever, its sequel, Staying Alive.
Yeah.
It feels like that kind of mid to late 80s lull for John Travolta. And I think this was part of it.
Yeah, well, at least it came out in a good year.
Oh, I didn't know that 1989 is a good year. Wasn't
It is.
aware.
It's the year I was born.
Next is Secret Admirer from 1985.
Another Kelly Preston movie.
Yes, another Kelly Preston movie. C. Thomas Howell, Laurie Laughlin, the late Fred Ward is in the film as well. This actually comes with a slipcover. It's kind of arbitrary.
Well, it's a popular. I think it's a popular of its time type of movie. I mean, I like the movie fine. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I watched this movie probably a few times because of Kelly Preston.
Oh, I didn't know you've seen this movie.
Oh yeah, I've seen this movie. Yeah, I'd seen this movie before I watched it recently. I couldn't remember if I'd seen it, and once I started watching, I was like, yeah, I've seen this movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's one
Looks
I
like
watched.
a romantic kind of.
It's a teen, like
comedy.
a teen, romance kind of.
Oh, it's set in high school.
It's a set in high school teen romance where C. Thomas Howell is the guy that can't see that the girl that's his best friend, the cliche that really likes him, so that and he wants to be with the really sexualized Kelly Preston character. And
what's crazy is I probably haven't seen this movie, but I have seen this movie. You know what I mean?
Have.
Because of that
you
premise.
haven't, but you have. And
it reminds me of like Some Kind of Wonderful, which I think came out around the same time. And that movie I think is really good. That was one of the movies we just talked about with Jesse, where it initially came out in a steelbook version, and then they released a regular version like a year later.
Yeah.
It took forever.
Yeah.
But moving on from there, we have Making Mr. Right, starring John Malkovich and Ann Magnuson. Let me see. This movie is another one I'm not quite too much aware of, but it's John Malkovich, 1987, very good year. Young Malkovich. Yeah, I think this is this another adaptation of Pygmalion? Maybe. Yeah, it seems like it, but it's the reverse Pygmalion, where Pygmalion is what My Fair Lady is kind of based on, where it's taking someone and kind of fixing them up and making them proper, making them the ideal person. But I think this may be the opposite of that, where it's taking the Malkovich character and doing that. This is directed by Susan Seidelman, who directed Desperately Seeking Susan. I have seen a couple of Susan Seidelman films, so that does pique my interest. Another one with the slipcover coming in. And then next we switch things up dramatically with a 1935 epic with Cecil B. DeMille's The Crusades. I couldn't imagine what this could be about. Doesn't clue us in at all. This is a movie set in the Crusades about the Crusades.
Yeah. Wow, pretty on the nose title there.
Yeah, pretty on the nose title. If you know Cecil B. DeMille, he's kind of the king of the epics back in the day. The Ten Commandments, Cleopatra, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, this was, set around the Crusades and all that kind of stuff. So if you like those kind of epics from back in the day, I think you'll dig this. Kind of want it because I do have a small Cecil B. DeMille collection that I gotta build up. But moving on from there, we have a movie called Eye for Icarus, starring Yves Montand, and this is, they don't give much in terms of the description of this, other than the music is done by Ennio Morricone, which has me intrigued.
You did miss the Counselor at Law release.
Well, we talked about that when it was announced. That's why I skipped over.
You remember things that I don't remember.
Yeah, I know because I watched it. It's directed by William Wyler. So I definitely remember. They just finally getting around to telling us that it's coming out on March 28th, and we get all the details that we didn't have before, like a new audio commentary, and it's getting a new HD master. But yeah, starring John Barrymore, directed by William Wyler. So if you're a completist for William Wyler, sounds like you need Counselor at Law.
I will be getting that.
Co-starring Melvin Douglas. So I've always been a big Melvin Douglas fan. But yeah, Eye for Icarus, I believe, is an Italian film.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Because Ennio Morricone.
And then we get to a film that no one has ever heard about. Really obscure.
Hate this movie.
Yeah, never heard of it before in my life. It's a movie called Face and then Off.
/Off.
Yeah, /Off. Sorry, I didn't know how to quite to interpret the slash in there. Starring John Travolta and Nicolas Cage.
Greatest.
Some tell me it is his birthday today.
It is.
Very, very nice that we're covering
birthday,
this.
Mr. Cage.
Yes, Mr. Cage.
You should come on the podcast.
Yeah, it came out in 1997, which this has to be what, 25? Oh no, over 25 years, 26 years ago. This movie came out. I remember just the other day seeing the trailer for this movie. Oh boy, how time flies! But this is the
Well,
John Woo starring action film. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
it was the best
this
Christmas
was
present I
they
got.
announced it, like, on Christmas too.
Yeah, it's the
It was
best
like
Christmas
Kino's
present I got.
Christmas Christmas present to us.
Yep.
And this is a 4K UHD edition of the film because there's been a Blu-ray out for like a decade. So this is gonna be a welcomed upgrade to that. I know this film is much loved by many Nicolas Cage and John Travolta and just 90s action movie fans. It's got doves, it's got action, it's got gunfights, it's got Nicolas Cage making faces. Um, yeah, there's so many gifts from that movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ooh-wee, you good looking.
I
Okay.
could eat a peach for hours.
I could hear I'm Castor Troy. Um, but switching things up, moving on there is Double Crossbones from 1951. What a great title. Starring Donald O'Connor, who was in Singing in the Rain. Um, this is, yeah, directed by the same person who directed Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, Charles Barton. Who doesn't like a good swashbuckling film from the 50s? Come on.
Well, I
Um,
mean, being that it's only an hour and 15 minutes or 10
yeah.
minutes,
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
yeah.
76 minutes long.
Yeah, it's
Perfect.
yeah.
Perfect. Next is Thanks for the Memory, starring Bob Hope and Shirley Ross. I'm assuming this is a comedy because Bob Hope did comedies. Um, yes, that's what it looks like. It's another short film clocking in at 75 minutes. These just keep getting shorter and shorter.
That's amazing.
Um, yeah, so legend Bob Hope, who was in The Cat and the Canary, which got a Blu-ray release from was it Eureka? I believe they did. They released that. Um, yeah, it just looks like a fun Bob Hope film. He was the man back then.
Yeah.
One of them. Next is a movie that I actually did get to see, and that is Tomahawk, starring Van Heflin and Yvonne DiCarlo. Now I'm a big fan of Van Heflin. Van Heflin is, I think, such an underrated actor. He was in that movie Johnny Eager, where he won an Oscar for that film. He was in the movie Shane. He's been in a bunch of movies. Just look up his filmography. Also, just directed by George Sherman, who's another kind of underrated director. He he's been in a lot of movies I think we've covered here many times. He directed the movie Storm Over Lisbon. He directed The Lady and the Monster, The Comancheros. Well, he was a producer on that. Citadel of Crime. Just a workman director, really, from back in the day. I think he has 129 directing credits to his name. So he was just a working director. But this movie's really cool, based off of a real life guy. Um, uh, and he was kind of a mountain man type of person who got caught up in the Native American and war with the United States government back in the day, back in the 1860s, back in, I believe, like around the Montana area. But yeah, it's a whole thing that's rather fascinating to me because there's still a lot of tension when it comes to indigenous peoples, which we will get into later on when we get to the Vinegar Syndrome partner labels. There's a great film in there that's straight out of today. That's fantastic. But yeah, this is a solid film, Tomahawk. And
Okay.
then we get a movie once again with once again with Yvonne DiCarlo. This is a movie with Joel McCrea called Border River. Yvonne DiCarlo, many of you probably know her mostly for being Lily Munster on The Munsters. But
Mm.
before she was in that, she was an actress in movies, and she was, I think, a really good actress in movies. Gorgeous on screen, just fantastically beautiful. And she's a really good actress. And in this film, she plays opposite Joel McCrea as like a romantic lead. Yeah, this is another solid film. I'm a big Joel McCrea fan. Joel McCrea in a western, kind of a cool concept to me. Um, yeah,
Oh yeah.
I very much like it. Um, I know this is another George Sherman film. That's why that name sounds familiar. Next is Steven. You just brought up this director, Dennis Hopper's film. It's either called Backtrack or Catch Fire. Now, the interesting
Sounds like this should be just one in this. Like they should call the movie Catch Fire Backtrack
Yeah,
or
I mean,
Backtrack to
it's
Catch
kinda
Fire.
work together. This
Should
movie
just be
stars
one
Jodie
title.
Foster, Dennis Hopper,
Vincent
Vincent Price
Price.
is in this movie, I think as like a bad guy or something. He's sitting behind a chair the whole time. Dean Stockwell, John Turturro, Fred Ward, Tony Sirico, Catherine Keener. This movie is filled with people. Bob
Joe
Dylan's in it,
Joe
three people.
Pesci's in the
Joe
movie.
Pesci's in this film, just swearing up a storm, killing people, being a gangster. This movie. So interesting backstory behind this movie. Briefly, it was initially called Catch Fire, and I believe the movie. Dennis Hopper directed a 3-hour cut of the film. Studio didn't like that, so they took the film from him and I re-edited it without telling him, and they cut it down from 3 hours to like 90 something minutes. And
Wow.
so he got the movie back and then recut it as a director's cut for TV, and it's a slightly longer cut, and then he retitled the movie Backtrack. So that's the little story there. You can read that on the IMDb trivia for this movie. But Jodie Foster's in this film. She witnesses somebody getting murdered, and then the people who committed that murder are obviously bad people, and then now they're after her. And Dennis Hopper is the assassin that's sent after her, but he ends up falling in love with her, like obsessively in love with her, then ends up trying to protect her. A lot of Stockholm syndrome type stuff in there, so be warned for that. But that's kind of the basic premise of the movie. Um, yeah, I think it initially came out in 1989, but they do say 1990 here, but it's in that weird release corridor. But next is a 3D movie called The Glass Web. Once again, these 3D movies keep popping up for some reason. Not really quite sure. No one can really watch these at home anymore unless they have that set up. But it's kind of cool that they're still, honoring these 1950s 3D movies in some way. Giving them the restorations and giving us the option to watch it in standard uh, format as well. And this movie has, I think that's Edward G. Robinson. Yes, it is. John Forsythe. Cool. Next is a movie that I've already ordered from Imprint and it's out in the ether somewhere, and that is Ida Lupina's Outrage. I'm assuming this is going to be very similar to the Imprint release that has already come out, which Stephen, I think you have, don't you?
Yeah, I love this movie, and yeah, I already have this release. I mean, the only thing that would maybe make me get this Kino release is if it had some more features, some good
Yeah, and
features. But
they haven't
uh,
listed any, so
yeah,
we don't really know. It just says coming soon. It does say a 2017 HD master by Paramount, which I assume is the same one that Imprint used.
I believe
Uh,
so. Yeah,
yeah, there's nothing new here. This is probably part of that Paramount deal that Kino made sometime last year. And yeah, so moving on from there, we already talked about the movie Love Letters, which is the Jennifer Jones and Joseph Cotton film. Um, so I'm going to bring up Joseph Cotton later on. Remind me, Stephen.
uh,
He's actually in one of those Umberto Lenzi films in
okay,
that box set. That's why. I
I
was
got
like, "Is that Joseph Cotton?" Yeah, it is. But this is a movie from 1945. And I think we talked about this when it was announced, but
you.
it's
All
coming
right.
out on March 14th. Anything with Joseph Cotton, you got me. You got me curious. This next movie, No Man is an Island, we've talked about already when it was announced. But this movie we have in another Bob Hope film called Never Say Die. What a dark title for a Bob Hope film, but I'm assuming it's not
Yeah,
that
his
dark.
last name's Hope.
Yeah, a misdiagnosis of only a month to live sends millionaire hypochondriac Bob Hope into the arms of Martha Ray and on a madcap matrimonial romp. Sounds fun. Let's see. Next, we've got.
Sounds like the Akiru comedy version.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like that, or even like what's that movie with Queen Latifah, The Last Holiday, where she thinks
Wow,
she's dying and she goes on.
that's a deep dive you just did
Yeah,
there.
kind of goes on this mad like adventure of like doing all the things I think she wants to do, because she believes she's going to pass away soon. But next is a movie called Lucky Jordan. I guess you know bringing luck into the situation. Uh, but this is a movie from 1942 starring Alan Ladd, and this looks like a film noir. Um, just the way the cover looks, and just because it's it's an Alan Ladd film from the 1940s. I'm curious about this film. Like, I kind of really want to see this. We're getting an audio commentary by Sam Deegan in there and new master. So this is something That's definitely has my interest.
Right.
Yeah, directed by Frank Tuttle, who directed This Gun for Hire. There you go. Next is Has Anybody Seen My Gal? I often say that. Starring Piper Laurie, Rock Hudson, Charles Colburn, and Gigi Perot. You had me at Rock Hudson. You had me at Rock Hudson. I don't need any more.
They look like they're rocking in the poster.
I know. Hopefully they use that as the cover because that is just a madcap, just wild cover where everybody
It's a
has the most
Technicolor film,
ridiculous
so
smile. Charles Colburn has the most ridiculous smile I've ever seen of any person ever
I
on
don't
the
even know
cover
if
of this
that's
poster.
really. It almost looks like it's not really him. He looks like a
I don't think that's really him.
yeah,
That is like the Joker version of Charles
yeah. It's
Colburn.
creepy.
Charles Colburn as the Joker. There you go. Yeah, directed by Douglas Sirk. That's double give it to me. Double give it to me.
God.
So that is everything from Kino up until 12 hours ago as of this recording. Yes, so we can move on from there to Scream and Shout Factory.
All right.
Because they dropped a bunch of stuff this week, Steven. Some of them are I believe upgrades, and some of them are new stuff. So we've got Streets of Fire getting a 4K release, Crazy People getting a Blu-ray release, and this is a movie starring I think Dudley Moore and Daryl Hannah. The Exorcist 3 4K release has me very intrigued. Because this movie stars George C. Scott, and this is considered like people tell you just to completely skip Exorcist 2 and go to Exorcist 3. That's how much better this movie is than Exorcist 2. Nothing really holds a candle to the first film, but I would concur that this movie is better than Exorcist 2. And I believe this movie is directed by William Peter Blatty. Yes. And then Exorcist 2 was directed by John Borman, I think. But anyway, that's just me going off. Next movie is Critical Condition. And then after that is Razorback. Then a movie called Dr. Giggles, because
Yeah.
that sounds pleasant, even though
sounds
it's
good.
definitely Dead Silence. Do you remember that movie Dead Silence?
I always remember the image of that dummy just
Yeah, they've been using that same image where he's shushing us.
Yeah.
For since the movie came out in I think the 2000s. I think this is from James Wan and Lee Whannell, who were behind obviously James Wan, The Conjuring, and all those films, but they were also I think teamed up for the Insidious films as well. But yeah, it's a horror film. I'm pretty sure many people are familiar with. Next is a completely switching things up is Sorry Wrong Number, starring Barbara Stanwyck and Burt Lancaster. I've seen this movie. I don't know if I saw this on Filmstruck or if I saw this on the Criterion Channel. It may have been the Criterion Channel, but basically Barbara Stanwyck is bedridden. I think she's sick or something, and she picks up the phone one time, and I think she overhears two people plotting a murder of an unidentified woman, and she thinks it's her. And basically the movie just a tension build of her paranoia throughout the whole thing. And it's really good. I don't know if you ever remember that I remember being in the 90s where when you had landline phones, sometimes the wires would get crossed and you'd pick up the phone and you could hear your neighbor's conversation. I don't know if that was something that only happened to me. But
it never happened to me.
Yeah, it happened sometimes in the 90s. It happened like once or twice in my entire lifetime. My parents still have a landline, so I don't. That doesn't happen now. But finally is the movie Wanted, starring James McAvoy as well as what was it, Angelina Jolie in that film?
Yeah,
based off of the comic
Morgan
book.
Freeman.
Yeah, they're bending bullets. I remember when this movie came out.
This was a pretty big movie, and it's
a cool movie.
It's based on a comic book graphic novel. So it's part of that kind of first wave in the 2000s.
Yeah, Angelina Jolie, Terrence Stamp, Morgan Freeman's in it. This came out in what, 09? 08. Yeah, 2008. Yeah, and it's getting a 4K release, I think, for the first time. Interesting random catalog title. Yeah. So that's all for Shout Factory. Like I said, the highlight for me is that Exorcist 3 and then Sorry Wrong Number. Those are the two that have
Dr. Giggles?
No, no giggling for me. No, thank you. No giggles here. But moving on from there, There is a couple of things I do want to get into when it comes to potential future Eureka titles. Off the top of my head, there's a couple of these weren't official announcements. These are just kind of things that are to be, like coming attractions. These weren't even put out by them, but there's a few titles I do want to mention here. There's a new 4K restoration of 3 early Andrei Zulawski films, and Andrei Zulawski is the director of Possession, and so that may ring all kinds of bells in people's heads. Some of these films I think had come out before that movie and then after that movie. The 3 films are The Third Part of the Night, Diabel, which I think is like also also be translated as Devil, and then On the Silver Globe. These are all I'm fascinated by all of these, to be honest with you. They all have really relatively high ratings on Letterboxd, so that was kind of interesting to see. Yeah, one comes out in 71, then 72, and then 88. So 2 before Possession, 1 after Possession. So if you're a fan of that movie and you want more from that director, seems like your thing. Next is, I believe, a couple of them, like yet again those martial art films. Is Tragic Hero from 1987, starring Chow Yun-fat and Andy Lau, who we've been seeing so much of them. Directed by Taylor Wong. And then we also have The Blonde Fury, which came out in 1989, starring Cynthia Rothrock. Yeah, and the release is expected to arrive on the market sometime this year. I believe there's one more. Yes, Rich and Famous. Once again, starring Chow Yun-fat and Andy Lau, came out in 1987. What a year. What a year indeed. And there's one straggler here that came out in 1973 called The Beach of the War Gods. What a title. What a title. That's a 50th anniversary release of whatever that film is. Cool. Very, very cool. So that's all of that. And then I think in the interest of time, we can go to Vinegar Syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah, real quick, they're finally putting out the first 4 Rocky movies in 4K, and that box set looks terrible. I just want to say,
yeah, not a big fan. Not a big fan of that. Talk about cover art.
Yeah,
I know Best Buy's putting out exclusive steelbooks of them as well,
and they still don't look good either.
Well, the cover art is looking so bad. I don't know why they're ignoring. Well, I know why they're ignoring Rocky 5, but Rocky Balboa.
I was told by somebody that apparently they're working. Stallone might be working on new cuts of them 2 movies, 5 and 6.
Sweet Jesus!
I can't wait.
Question: Is it going to be his cut of Rocky 4?
They're both cuts are going to be.
That's another. Yeah, I would say isn't that being debated or rumored right now?
It's both cuts are going to be on these 4Ks. So,
okay.
So to me that director's cut of 4 was terrible. But it's going to be a good one to go back to laugh at.
I actually never got to see it, so I can't get that released.
I need you to get it so you can watch it, because it
is like it didn't really stream anywhere for too long, and it wasn't really available to watch for too long as well.
Dude, I went to the theater to watch that shit. And
didn't it come out like during COVID too?
Yeah.
Or towards the end of COVID?
Yeah.
Interesting time to re-release that in theaters. Yeah. So. That was what I was curious about as well. I know they re-released Rocky already twice. They re-released a remastered version of it, and it looks so much better than that original Blu-ray release. And I'm hoping that these will look good at least to make up for how bad the packaging.
Funny enough, I've never owned them, and I've seen them so many times. It's because I bought
them on. Yeah, go on.
We have a box set, and it was my dad's. I gave it to my dad, so I never needed to own it, because when I lived with my parents, we always had it, and it was his. But I've seen him so many times that I've never felt like I needed to own
him. Even growing up in the 90s, they played them on cable all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was always on TNT.
It always was. They would always have a marathon of those movies. I mean, as time went on, they had other marathons. Like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't TV, but Spike TV. I don't even know if they exist anymore. They would just marathon the Lord of the Rings and Star Wars like every weekend over the last decade or so. And it's just like, okay. But speaking of movies, I guess you can marathon. or movies you could watch. This week was their subscriber week, and this was a fun week. If you're a Vinegar Syndrome fan, they had new stuff dropping every day. Of course, we got the new slate on the first of every month, just like your rent is due, and Vinegar Syndrome slate is dropping as well. And we've got some good stuff. First, I think Steven, we should go over what like the slate was originally, and then like because they had like a couple of random titles drop, we'll talk about those.
Go for it.
Yeah, afterwards. So, they're putting on a 4K UHD edition of Sidekicks, starring Chuck Norris and what was his name? Jonathan Brandis, I believe, the young actor.
Yes.
Yes, Jonathan Brandis, who was a really kind of a promising young star in his early days in the 80s and 90s. If you've probably seen him, um, if you've seen, if you were watching movies at that time. I remember him in that movie Ladybugs with Rodney Dangerfield when he's coaching the girls soccer team, and he
Yeah.
brings him in to play on the team.
Yeah.
I remember him in that.
This is a fun. I like this
Karate
movie.
Kid esque movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Karate Kid meets Last Action Hero.
Yeah, yes, it is. They throw a little cloak and dagger in there,
Yeah,
and you got yourself sidekicks.
it's a pretty fun, clean movie. Like it's a movie you could show your kids, and it'd be fun. A
Yeah,
fun
the
time.
same premise. I mean, this young kid who's kind of,
He's
he's
obsessed with Chuck Norris.
Yes, he's obsessed with Chuck Norris, but he's also he's kind of getting picked on at school. He's not really popular. He's got teen angst issues going on. He needs a confidence boost. And you know what you need? You got to learn some martial arts. You got to kick some ass.
But yeah. The good thing about the story, I think, is that it shows somebody that has a physical ailment and how martial arts helped him get through that physical ailment, which was asthma. He had a really bad asthma.
Yes.
And,
yes, he did.
And he gets a real teacher that's not his fantasizing about Chuck Norris. And, throughout the movie, you see him fantasizing about being in a different Chuck Norris movie. And so instead of fantasizing, he actually gets a real teacher, played by Mako, who apparently I've seen a bunch of his movies this year, because when my Letterboxd year in review came out, it said the actor I've seen the most movies of from this year was Mako.
Really? Mine was Vincent Price again for the second year.
Really? What are you doing, man?
Vincent Price. Watching a shit ton of Vincent Price, apparently.
Apparently.
That's what I'm doing. But and also in this movie, Beau Bridges plays his dad.
Yeah.
Danica McKellar plays like his kind of teen crush, friend, love interest.
She was
person.
my crush.
Well, yeah, if you grew up watching
Years?
the Wonder Years, this came out right towards the end of the Wonder Years. Because Wonder Years ended in 1992, and this movie came out in 1992. So yeah, Danica McKellar, she still acts in things now, mostly I think like Lifetime and Hallmark stuff.
Yeah.
She went on to actually, I think she has a PhD in mathematics. She's like a doctor, PhD doctor. She like a smart, very smart person. But yeah, I think I follow her on social media, I believe. But next up is From Beyond. And this is a movie probably many people are aware of. This is directed by Stuart Gordon, who directed Reanimator right around the same time, too. So this movie feels like a Reanimator, and it's also an adaptation of an H.P. Lovecraft story, as Reanimator was as well. This movie is crazy and in the positive way. Man, it is disgusting. It is gooey. It is wild. And I enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah, I did too.
I enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Jeffrey Combs again. Same star.
Same actor.
Yeah, same actor.
And Barbara Crampton.
Yeah.
Who was also in Reanimator as well.
Yeah.
What is interesting is that Stuart Gordon didn't direct the sequel to Reanimator, but he directed this. And this feels like, Steven, you like to say, it feels like a sequel to the movie. This feels like a sequel to Reanimator. I don't know why. Maybe because it's dealing with science going wrong and supernatural shit.
Yeah, like thematically maybe connected, but not necessarily story-wise.
No, not story-wise at all. But the story of this movie is basically Jeffrey Combs and this other doctor create this machine that I guess connects to this other dimension or something.
Yeah.
And then the creatures or the monster that's in that dimension possesses the doctor, and then he's trying to get into this world, and crazy things happen. Lots of third act, just body horror awesomeness, really in this movie. I dug it.
There's a lot of
I
really great fun practical effects
Oh
that
yeah,
happen, and
yes,
that's
there is.
stuff I'm always there for. Yeah,
Me too. Me too. But next is Made in Hong Kong Volume 1. So this leads me to believe there may be other subsequent volumes. Now, these are films that I think are part of that. What's that category?
Category 3.
Category 3. We have The Demon's Baby, Erotic Nightmare, and The Deadly Camp. I got to see The Demon's Baby, and holy crap, yes. yes. This is definitely category 3. Um, so what happens is this demon impregnates these 5 women with a demon baby type of thing, and then these monks have to stop them from being born. They'll talk about body horror. A lot of body horror in this film. Once you get past the 45-minute mark in this movie, the last 40 minutes of this movie are insane, just wild. Man, just crazy,
I'm gonna
crazy stuff.
definitely get this eventually because I'm very curious
Yeah,
about
you're
it. But
curious about the category 3 stuff.
yeah, I am definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely out there. It's crazy fun to watch. But yeah, that's The Demon's Baby. I didn't get to watch the other one. Erotic Nightmare I actually couldn't even find on Letterboxd to add to my watch list. Like, it just wasn't there. And I don't think I could find it on IMDb either. So I don't know why that movie just completely disappeared from any database. Um, but yeah, so these all came out from 1998 and 1999, I believe. So 20 or so years ago. Next is Infernal Rapist. I guess we can all deduce how this movie is going to go.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you just read the description here, it's a movie about a guy who's a piece of work.
I
uh,
believe if I remember how it was described is that this guy like
like
makes a deal with a demon or something like that, or like a deal with the
yes,
devil, and
a
then
satanic spirit.
yeah,
Yeah, he makes a deal with a satanic spirit before he's about to be executed for his crimes.
yeah,
Um, Yeah, he basically makes a deal with the devil, brought back to life, and is allowed to continue his drug fueled spree of rape and murder in order to appease his new satanic ruler. Um, yeah, that movie sounds
I okay. Look,
a bit is yeah.
don't judge me, and I
Mm.
know you won't, but I ordered this.
Oh,
Um,
did you?
I ordered this because it's a Mexican film, and I'm so interested in Mexican cinema right now. So I was like, I'm just gonna pick this up. I'm already picking up a bunch of this shit anyway, and I'm like, I'm just gonna get this shit too.
Yeah, there are
So
actually 3 brand new interviews that they've gotten with people from for actors from the movie.
yeah,
I'm curious what they have to say.
you're
So that
curious to see what I think of this.
yeah, I'm curious to see what you think of it.
I'll let you know.
I did not think you bought it. Next is a movie called Frostbiter, um, which is kind of a cool title. The cover of this looks awesome. I tried to watch this for the show, and I just couldn't find it anywhere to watch. I believe this is kind of about a Wendigo or Wendingo,
Wendigo,
however you want to
Wendigo,
pronounce it.
Wendigo.
Um, yeah, basically, don't go into any snowy mountains, or else there's gonna be some type of Wendigo to come and get you.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the gist I'm getting.
exactly.
Yeah, yep. A long time ago, a mighty Wendigo was defeated and buried in the mountains, and of course, somebody has to unearth it, and then bad shit happens. Mm-mm-mm.
Happens. That's how it goes.
That's how it goes. That's how it rolls. Next we get into every
Sub
single day this week they kind of dropped a few um titles here and there.
sub label stuff. Yeah.
Yes, sub-label stuff. Like there was a VSA, a VSL, a Picorama, and another VSL, and another VSA. So let's get into it. So I think the first VSA they dropped was the Ted Bundy film
Yeah.
from 2002. And Steven, I know you got to see it because it
Yeah,
is streaming on Tubi, I believe.
Yeah, it was on Tubi. This is directed by Matthew Bright, which we just recently got the 4K from Freeway, which is also directed by him. And so I was curious to watch this because I'm a fan of Freeway, and it definitely has the flavor of Matthew Bright in there. It's a very straightforward telling of the Ted Bundy story. I know there's inaccuracies. It's just not a documentary, so I don't know why people get upset about there being inaccuracies in the story. But you know, it's got and it's all a Ted Bundy's point of view kind of story. It's really kind of very exploitative of of what he did, and like just all his point of view, how he sees things, how his emotions on things. Like it's pretty brutal sometimes.
Well, the gore
Yeah.
effects were done by Tom Savini,
There you go.
who's a master at doing that type of work.
Yeah.
He's been doing that type of work for decades, and yeah, I think this is one of the. I don't know if it was the last feature that this director had done, but one of the last features. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. They released one of his films like back to back.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that there was a whole, not a Ted Bundy craze or anything like that, but remember Netflix had like a documentary about him. Netflix had that movie with what's his name? This is what happens when you record.
Well, I was gonna say
midnight.
there's always a serial killer. This always seems to be
Well, yeah, things like true crime has been
true. Yeah. I
massive.
think you're thinking of Dahmer though, with Evan Peters.
No, I'm thinking of the one with
Oh, you're talking
High
about the
School
one with Zac Efron.
Zac Efron, yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't get I almost said I almost called him High School Musical, but that's not his name.
I mean,
Not
that's
his name.
probably what I would have called him back in the day if I didn't, But
But yeah, the
yeah.
movie, yeah, where he played him in a movie a few years. That was the Netflix movie. And then of course there was, and they just did the same thing with the Jeffrey Dahmer series, and then they had of course a Jeffrey Dahmer documentary on Netflix to go along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil,
Yeah.
and Vile.
Yeah.
Where he played Ted Bundy.
I would say what I and I'm not like super informed about the real Ted Bundy, but I think one thing about this version that I think is maybe a little more accurate is that they don't play up his like charmingness so much, like he's like some like super ladies man. Like I know like a lot of women apparently rode him once he was in prison,
of course they did.
but I think he was still considered an awkward person, and he's more awkward in this version than he is in the other version, where they make him out to be like this ladies man, and that's why he killed so many women, because so many women wanted to be with him. And it's like, I don't know that that's exactly how it went down. It's pretty. Yeah. Though I'm sure there's a lot of inaccuracies, it's still a pretty effective story to show how monstrous this person was.
Right.
So,
speaking of which, this movie doesn't have monsters in it, but it is a bit of a horror film. This is their first VSL title, and their VSL is the Vinegar Syndrome Labs.
But basically, it's almost like their way of doing all the partner labels in one little sub label, where anything that doesn't really fit a criteria that is typically used in Vinegar Syndrome, they're going to throw in this label, this sub label.
And the movie they chose to kick things off is Flesh and Fantasy, which is an anthology film. It's directed by Julien Duvivier. Julien Duvivier actually has a movie in the Criterion Collection.
Yeah.
And I know Julien Duvivier is actually well known amongst classic movie fans. The movie Panique is in the Criterion Collection, just off the top of my head. And yeah, and also Pepe Le Moco is another film that people really like of his work. Yeah, and so this anthology film I rather enjoyed. It stars a lot of people that you're probably well aware of: Edward G. Robinson, Barbara Stanwyck, Charles Boyer, Robert Cummings. And this movie has 3 different stories in it. It's relatively short runtime of what was it, like 94 minutes. It's only 3 stories, and they're all dealing with like macabre type situations, relatively so.
Moral quandaries.
The second film is dealing about death and murder. The third one's about love. What was that first film about? Was
kind of about physical identity, like your looks and your like what you're willing to do,
a
body
woman.
dysmorphia, or
Yeah, a
kind of.
woman is, she's kind of a bad person, and she's kind of mean and angry probably because of low self-esteem, the way she looks. So she's given this mask that has a beautiful aesthetic to it, and then she meets someone, and they have this magical night together, and she's afraid to take her mask off, but when she does, she's beautiful because she's kind of purged that meanness and hatefulness and self-loathing. And so it's a nice story. Second one is kind of more of a downer with Edward G. Robinson kind of thinking he's going to commit a murder at some point. And then
Yeah.
the third film is a love story between Charles Boyer and Barbara Stanwyck's character. But Charles Boyer, kind of one of my favorite actors who keeps popping up in things. He was in Gaslight, and he's been in several movies we've talked about here on the podcast. But I dig it. It's something completely different from Vinegar Syndrome at all.
Yeah.
A classic movie from 1940 starring classic Hollywood actors. You don't really see that from them in any of their partner labels, really.
No, it's not an area. I think it's an area that probably for them they looked at as being covered by most other labels, and
Very
that
much so.
they
Yeah.
didn't feel the need. But if they have the ability to grab something, why not? Not with it seems their abilities to market their releases and things. Why not? Go after some titles
Yeah,
that
I
are.
was saying in
Yeah.
our group on Facebook, I was talking with one of the individuals in there, saying that this could open them up to a whole new avenue of film collectors if they put out more films like this, what they can get their hands on distribution wise.
Yeah.
I don't know what else they have in store, but there is a second VSL. Their second VSL is relatively similar. It's in the 1950s realm, and that is, I have no idea how to pronounce this. Kuruku, Beast of the Amazon, kind of a monster movie from 1951. I know, Steven, you said you saw it.
Yeah. There's okay. This is a slight spoiler, so go 15 seconds ahead. There's okay. Spoiler. Here we go. There's a moment in
Spoiler
this
alert.
movie that's kind of like they kind of the village it, where the monster isn't
Ooh.
a person, is a person. There's a
There's a
moment
whole
where there's a
there's a life lesson going on here.
yeah. It's kind of funny. I was like, oh shit, the village. I was like, oh shit, M. Night Shyamalan stole this. No,
Bro, who knows?
but yeah, the movie's okay. It's not one of the better, kind of monster films from
Yeah,
that time.
it's a B movie.
It's
It's a
maybe
B
even a
movie from
C. It's
1951.
even a C maybe or something.
Okay.
But it's interesting thing. It's directed by Robert Zozak's brother, Kurt.
Yes, it
Um,
is. Who was the
so he
scribe of The Wolfman, I Walk with the Zombie, and Donovan's Brain.
Yeah.
Um,
He's done a lot. His directing efforts have mostly been in this kind of genre, this kind of
kind
monster
of
movie
B and C
genre.
movie, monster
Yeah,
movies.
yeah.
Um,
So,
yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, it's not my favorite title. It's not one I'm probably going to pick up, but it's if you're into that kind of like the monster movies from that time, maybe this will be something for you.
cool.
Um,
So, and then they did have one Peakorama title, The Beast in Space. Um, their Peakorama is their adult film kind of sub-label, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's what is this, a 1980 adult film, okay. Um, yeah, so that's that title. I mean, I don't know much about it other than
nah.
I'm assuming it's a sci-fi centered adult film from 1980.
There you go.
Um, that's what it
That'll be
seems
fun.
like to me.
Yeah,
And then they did have one more VSA title, and that is Undeclared War, and this is a Ringo Lam film
yeah.
from 1990. And this just got announced today, so I don't think either of us had a chance to watch it.
No, I didn't get a chance, but I am a fan of Ringo
Yeah,
Lam. So
they did just release Burning Paradise.
yeah.
So if you order that release, maybe this release
Yeah,
has
there's
interests you.
some Ringo Lam has come to Eureka as well, so you can go
Hmm.
look at Eureka's Ringo Lam stuff.
Yes. And then now we venture to the partner labels. Now let's go through these. Steven, do you want me to go through these, or do you want to go through them? I don't know how tired you are.
Well, let's just say the titles, and then we'll say what we've seen.
Yeah, sure.
Real quick. We got Factory 25 is putting out a film called Actual People. AGFA, American Genre Film Archive, is putting out Attack of the Beast Creatures. From Alternate Innocence, we have Brothers Keeper. ETR Media is putting out a kind of a double feature shorts. One's called The First VCR, sorry. First VCR, and then the other one is called Cassette Go Hi-Fi. And then we have from Utopia, we have In Between Girl. From Canadian International Pictures, we have the documentary Kana.
It's Gonna Satake.
Gana Satake, 270 Years of Resistance. From Saturn's Core, we have Lost Faith. And then one of the new label added to the partner labels, which they're not a new label, but they're going to be contributing on, they're, I guess, partnering up with Vinegar Syndrome to do some releases, and that's Umbrella Entertainment is putting out Undead. And then lastly, we have from Yellow Veil Pictures, we have When I Consume You. So yeah, some interesting titles here. I watched a couple of these. I know the big one we wanted to talk about was the Canadian International Pictures, the documentary.
Let's get to that right away. Because it's the best of the ones that I've got to see.
I think this is the best film out of the partner labels releases this.
I didn't get to see all of them, and I don't think we got to see all of them.
I haven't either, but
we got to see one that actually isn't on the list here, Party Girl, which is being put out by Fun City.
Yeah.
I believe I don't think it's obviously not coming out this month.
I believe that's the MVD is putting that out.
Okay, that's why maybe it's not here.
Yeah,
but that's another title that we got to watch. It's kind of grouped into this, but this Gana Satake 270 Years of Resistance. This is a documentary from 1992, and this movie is probably 1993, but it's required viewing. I think this is required viewing.
This was an event that I was not aware of, and
no, I mean at the time you were what, 4 years old.
Still, I mean, I know about history before I was born. I'm just saying I didn't know about this particular event, and it's
I still didn't know. Yeah. And this is the 30th anniversary special edition of this documentary, and so this is how to sum this up. This is a documentary about real events that took place in 1990 in Canada. In this area of Oka, Quebec, and basically there was this protest when it came to the Canadian government appropriating these Indigenous people's lands for a golf course.
For a golf course. Yeah,
for a golf course. That's what really got me the whole time. Is like this all happened because of appropriating land to make a golf course. So basically, they do go into the whole history of like how who owns the land and the backstory of the contentious relationship between the local Indigenous population and the government and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was some of my favorite part of the documentary, was just getting the history of the land.
Yes, because it goes back hundreds of years.
Yeah,
hundreds of years to colonial times. If you're not aware, Canada was settled by the French initially, and then I believe that taken over by the British at some point. Canada's still technically part of Great Britain, actually, so as well as Australia. But anywho, that has nothing to do with this. But it just goes into it just shows you a very ground personal perspective of the treatment of the Indigenous peoples by the local government, by the military especially, and it just shows the whole protest about them kind of just camping out in this area, and how they're just trying to hold out to prove a point that this land shouldn't be stolen from them once again, because it's been stolen from them all the time. And it's still an issue to this day when it comes to Native American rights or Indigenous people's rights about land. It's always been that way. I mean, we're living on their stolen land right now for pretty much. So the movie has so many contemporary things going on in it when it comes to when it comes to all of that, as well as historical aspect too. Um, it's amazing. It's about 2 hours long, and it moved incredibly fast because I was just so engrossed in it,
Yeah.
so engrossed in it. Um, yeah, amazing documentary. After I
Yeah.
watched this, I was like, I don't know. It's one of those movies where it's so good that you can't watch a movie right after it because it'll ruin every movie you watch in the immediate future. You really gotta take a break. But damn, once again, Canadian International Pictures picking out a gem, an
Yeah.
absolute gem.
Yep. Definitely.
So
Uh,
that's a must buy.
it's a must buy. Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what else you got to watch, Steven. I got to watch a couple of these.
Yeah. I watched When I Consume You,
Yes,
which
I
is
got that too. I
yeah,
got
which
watch
is
that too.
same filmmaker that did They Look Like People, which is
Yes.
another released by the same partner label,
Is
Yellow
that Yellow
Veil.
Veil? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So this is, I think, a film that he did a little later on. This is from the last few years, 2021. Yeah. Um, so this film's, I think you can, if you've seen They Look Like People, it's got some of the same vibes, but it's definitely
Very
more.
slow, very methodical.
Yeah,
Um, shot primarily at night or indoors, so it's very
yeah,
dark, very mysterious things are going on, supernatural things may or may not be going on, things may be metaphorical, things may be real, you don't really know what's going on, but it's centered around the relationship between a brother and sister, and kind of the things that happen between them, dealing with a lot of substance abuse issues. That's a huge part of the movie, I think. We're literally fighting those demons. Um, yeah, I'd rather enjoy the movie, but it is I can understand because it is incredibly slow and plotting, and it's not quite a horror film, and it's not a thriller because it's too slow to be a thriller. Um, so it's tough to kind of pigeonhole it in any one way.
yeah. I feel the same way, kind of about They Look Like People. I mean, I would say that one's a little bit more horror, but it's they're that's the trend of a lot of horror these days. Is they're almost more dramatic pieces that have psychological a real psychological edge to them that make them horrific. It's not necessary. It's how the psychological um, message is visually represented in the movie that makes it horrific. Not necessarily that there's literal things happening that are, it's all in her mind, and that seems to be the a lot of what a lot of horror is going in that direction these days
Right.
is more methodical and
Yeah,
not so literal.
very much so. I mean, I agree with you entirely. But another movie that I got to see, because it is actually streaming on Showtime right now, is the movie In Between Girl, put out by Utopia. I really like this a lot. I like this a lot to the point where I may get it eventually, or I may order it now. Don't really know yet.
Oh, geez.
Oh gee, I'll leave that up in the air. But this is a
Whoa.
movie that came out in 2019, and I'm a sucker for teenage coming of age films. I don't know why. I've always been that
Did you
way.
still feel like a teenage boy? I mean,
I have no I'm still going through the existential crisis of trying to figure out who the heck I am and where do I fit in the world. But I think that's something we battle with throughout all of our lives. Um, I guess some more than others, but still. But this movie is centered around a young girl who's kind of going through that existential crisis. Her parents are suddenly divorced, which kind of really rattles her world, and she's also dealing with kind of a cultural thing as well because she's of Chinese and I believe American descent, so she has kind of that mixed culture within her. So she's battling that identity within herself. That's just one aspect of it, and of course she has all the other teen angsty things going on when it comes to having feelings for another person, like one of the her young friends, and having to deal with that, and having to deal with school, having to deal with her parents, and having to deal with self worth and things like that. And I thought the actress who portrayed that and really carried the movie, Emma, I think Galbraith, yeah, Galbraith, was really fantastic and captivating. Really did an amazing job. And the movie is relatively short, so there's no pacing issues. It clocks in at 90 minutes. The only thing with this release is I wish it had more features. All we have is two deleted scenes a casting crew interview at the Austin Film Society, and then the actors' auditions. That is it. And that is all that is. I wish there was more to it. A beautiful cover art here that deals with the movie because she's also a young and aspiring artist as well. So you get to see a lot of her artwork that's portrayed and kind of spliced in throughout the movie. Um, Really, really good movie. I really dug it a lot. And so I recommend that. And I know there's one movie we also got to see, both of us did, and that is the first VCR. That documentary only clocks in at about what, 45 minutes, I
Mm.
think. Um,
I,
Fascinating.
I did see the VCR release. That
Yeah,
part of that. I didn't watch the cassette part, but I did
I
watch
couldn't
the.
find I couldn't find Cassettes Go Hi-Fi.
Oh,
I couldn't
really?
even find it on IMDb or find it on Letterboxd to even add
Well,
it to like
yeah.
a watch list. But I know I think both of us got to watch the first VCR.
Yeah, it's okay.
It,
It's
it's
the thing is
it's
if
something you would watch in school, to be
I
honest.
was gonna say, like I think information wise, it has a lot of good information. Um,
The
I feel like
presentation
the
is very
presentation of it is
lecturing.
pretty generic.
Yeah, like this was something they would show you in a class in school.
Yeah, not
It
a lot of video clips, it's more like stills that are moved around the screen.
And then the
Um,
narration is kind of very straightforward, as if someone's reading from a textbook or
yeah,
someone's reading from a lecture or something like that, and it's
yeah,
just so it can be
it
rather slow, rather dry, and if you're
it
not really into the tech of it all,
yeah.
you may check out. I mean, I kinda found it fascinating.
It's no, I was gonna say, it's honestly something that I wouldn't mind having in my collection as a reference film. Like, it's like, "Hey,
Mm.
you wanna learn more about, the beginnings of how physical media, got its, like,
Oh, yeah, it's very
entry
important.
point?"
The
You
info
know?
is very important because
Yeah,
it's kind of the basis for everything we're doing now.
yeah,
On
yeah,
this podcast, for the collectors listening, for the film fans listening, for anyone who's ever owned a Blu-ray or DVD or VHS or Betamax or Laserdisc. I mean, without VCR, we would have none of it.
yeah,
No home media market at all.
yep,
And it's just kind of fascinating how that all kind of started. But I kind of wish it was presented in a more fun way, more
yeah,
engaging way.
yeah,
Um, but
but yeah,
yeah,
it's fine.
yeah, overall fine. But that is it for Vinegar Syndrome and their partner labels. And lastly, we've got Severin, and Severin only has 2 releases, but they're
Yes.
2 gargantuan releases. Well, one's
T
a gargantuan release. The other one's just an action movie. So we've got
Yeah,
Violent Streets, the Umberto Lenzi / Thomas Million collection, which is 8 discs box set, which their box sets are legendary at this point, and then
yeah.
a movie called Attack Force Z. Is that the movie starring a young Mel Gibson? Yes, it is.
A movie I believe, had done before Mad Max, but it didn't release until after Mad Max.
Oh, one of
So,
those where, like,
yeah,
now he's popular, now he's famous.
yeah,
Let's release this movie.
yeah,
Uh, that's kinda cool. What is even cooler is this Violent Streets Umberto Lenzi Thomas Million collection. So it's 8 discs, it's 5 movies over 8 discs plus a CD soundtrack, I believe.
yep,
Each movie is on its own disc. The movies are, Almost Human, Syndicate Sadists, um, a Free Hand for a Tough Cop, or just called Tough Cop if you're looking for it online. The Cynic, the Rat, and the Fist. Great title. And then the last film is Brothers Till We Die. Um, yeah, I think each movie's getting a CD soundtrack. Actually, it's kind of what it looks like. I'm on the Severin website right now. Um, yeah, it looks like each movie's getting its own CD soundtrack. Cool. Um, but yeah, I got to watch all these 5 movies. And yeah, they're fun 70s, oftentimes sleazy, dirty Italian police movies. They're all kind of based around like either criminals or cops or both. One's trying to find the other, or one like there's just dirty stuff going on. Um, I found these movies that the sleazier they were, the better they were. I don't know why. Maybe because it just added something added something to the entertainment factor for the most part. I know that sounds pretty terrible, but
Well, no,
but
I
when
mean
you got a
that's.
movie called Syndicate Sadists, I mean,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with watching sleazy movies. I mean, I
well,
remember talking about Doris Wishman. You know,
yeah,
that's what
but
they
yeah, and
are. I mean,
also
it's
Thomas Millian is an actor who's featured in each of them. There's one film in here where he actually reprises his role from an earlier film in the set. I think he reprised. Yeah, I think in Tough. There's a character he plays in Freehand for a Tough Cop that he reprises in Brothers Till We Die, and so that's kind of interesting. Um,
his character. And the only movie of this I did watch was Almost Human,
okay,
and his character in that movie, he's fucking crazy.
he's a degenerate.
Yeah, dude, this
That's
dude
what
like.
that was actually one of the better ones I found in the set. I thought
Yeah,
that one
there's a
was
scene where
good.
he's in this car with this woman, and then like doesn't go his way, and then he like runs her off of a cliff in a car.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a Mini Cooper, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this movie is he's a
The
scumbag in this movie.
opening of the movie is great. There's like a heist
Oh, there's a
scene,
car
and
chase scene.
yeah,
Yeah, these movies, when they're entertaining, they're very entertaining, but there's also a lot of downtime and a lot of plot and stuff going
yeah,
on in them. Those are the times when the movies are a little slow, and none of these movies clock in more than like an hour and 40 minutes.
yeah.
So they are all relatively short, but when they do get slow, they can be a little bit of a slog, but they all have this grimy 70s aesthetic to them that's unique. And Umberto Lenzi's a really good director. I think if you pair this up with his Lindsay Baker set, you got yourself a
Well, I was gonna
good
say,
collection here.
take this set and pair it up with the Years of Lead set from Arrow.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's a bunch of there you go. It's a bunch of Italian police films, and then I would say that these films are more villain, the
Oh
crime
yeah. Oh yeah.
perspective. You know,
Yeah, especially like Almost Humans dealing with what a kidnapping. Um, uh, yeah, these are all dealing with like kidnappings and crimes and stuff like that. Um, Yeah, the second film is dealing with some is Thomas Mignon's like a biker named Rambo who's
yeah,
gotta get revenge off of like the murder, like a gruesome murder of like his friend who just became like a volunteer cop or something. And then Freehand for a tough cop. This cop breaks out Thomas Mignon's character from prison because he needs him to help them, get a girl, help them find a girl who was kidnapped who has, like, a lung disease, so she needs to, like, go to the hospital for treatment, but, like, the captors won't let her go, and they want, like, so much money, so he's gotta go, like, to his underground bad guy friends and try to, like, figure out how to get her out and stuff, um, yeah, so it's all of this kind of, like, centered around police and criminals and all this kind of stuff, so it's all very, more amoral stuff or immoral stuff, for a lot of the time,
yeah.
um, but yeah, this is a cool box set.
It looks visually the aesthetically the set looks amazing.
Yeah, I do like
Yeah,
the
it's a
cover
cool
art.
set.
Cover
Yeah,
art's like a still from the first movie, I think, with guy
yeah,
holding a machine gun.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so this is a great set. How was the Mel Gibson action movie?
Yeah, Attack Force Z. It's a solid little. It's a fun movie. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not fun oriented, but it's like it's got a great cast. Mel Gibson's in there. It's also got Sam. I'm
Sam
blanking on
Neill.
Sam Neill's in there. Um, and yeah, I mean it's a special forces group, Australian special forces kind of group that goes on like a dangerous mission during World War II, um, into I believe into Japan, and yeah, it's solid. I mean, it's not one where it's too violent. It's not too overly violent. It's not too too political. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it's kind of like just like a Sunday morning watch type of
Oh, gotcha.
movie. Where it's not too overly, uh, too much in your face. I enjoyed it. You could already get the charisma from Mel Gibson in that film. He was going to be a star even at that time. You could tell. And Sam Neill's good too. But there are some right off the bat. There are some parts in the movie that you're like, man, they went there. there is some parts where you're like, oh, they had to kill one of their own men just because, he couldn't walk anymore. Like they were like, well, we can't just leave you behind because you could get captured. So bam, stuff like that. So it's a solid release. I think I'm going to grab it. I think I'm just going to get the bundle in this one eventually when I get the money.
Yeah, Severin does have a bundle.
Just over $100 for these.
Yeah, the Mill Meets Million bundle.
Yep.
Nice. Nice. You guys, I think you get some extra goodies in there.
No, I don't think there's any like extra.
No, there is nothing. I don't know. So it's just basically both of them together.
Yeah,
but
I believe at a set in the movie. But I think this is another great looking box set, another cool little extra release there, getting Mel Gibson into the Severin family. But yeah,
I think that's about it.
That's it.
That is a hell of a show to kick off the new year.
Yeah, 3 hours plus. But we had to do a lot of catching up, so that was bound to happen. But it was great having Jesse Nelson from Diabolik on, talking favorite releases from last year, talking about Cauldron Films, Neon Eagle, and his beginnings. So thanks again to Jesse for joining us. But with that said, Andrew, where can you be found?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, and also at all the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it be our Twitter, Instagram, or even my letterbox, where you can see what I'm watching at Chasing Labels. And of course, if you just go on our Chasing Labels YouTube page, you can see we recently put a update video talking about some of the new things we're going to be doing, along with a couple new shows, one being called Film Fiction, and us bringing back the Unwatched Pile. We're also going to be doing some new things with the show that you just heard now. The interview when we talked with Jesse, we're going to have video version of that up, so you'll get a visual for that. And moving forward, that's what we're going to do with all our interviews portions, or our special segments, is give you guys a video version of that. So we're going to try that moving forward, and you can still get everything audio as well. So that will be found, of course, at the regular places, your Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.